right, guys. Hello, Durud and Shalom. Hold on, let me see. Okay, guys, hi. How are you guys doing? Wild Army. Guys, today is just me. Goldie is busy, and you're just stuck with me. Is that okay? Let me know in the chat. Anyways, hi. And I'm gonna to make up for the fact that Goldie is not here today, I am going to I don't know what I could do. There's nothing that could replace Goldie. But I will try to you guys are the co-hosts, okay? So it's me and you guys. So I will try to pay attention to the chat so that you could help me fill in. You guys are Goldie today, okay? You guys are supposed to fill in Goldie's role today. So you guys are my co-host, all right? So again, I no promises, but I'm gonna try to pay closer attention to the chat. I so Lear is saying, "Can you rickroll us?" Rickroll us, rickroll us. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, fine. Let's just rickroll you. It's guys. Act surprised. Hold on. I don't even know what to search for. Okay, guys. For because Goldie's not here, I'm going to rickroll you. But you guys need to act surprised, okay? Because I'm not as good as old and Goldie with this, okay? So just pretend, guys. What is this video that I'm about to play? I don't know. Just act surprised. Just act surprised, okay? I got you. Ah, you're surprised. Oh, I know you were surprised. I got you all. I got you. You didn't see that coming, did you? You did not see that coming. I know. This is. Oh. All right. See. Damn it. Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. All right. Totally did not see that coming. None of you did. All right. Got me. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Okay. In shock. Look at you. All of you are shocked. Anyways. Damn it, he got us. Yes, see? I could do what Goldie does. I recalled you. All right. Guys, President Trump is posting about Iran left and right. So let's get into that. And as you know, there was a pause on the ceasefire, and now there's been attacks on ships, and President Trump is posting left and right with updates. I don't know. Let me see. Should I go from the most recent and then go all the way down? Yeah, maybe I should go. Hold on, go away. So look at this. So first of all, President Trump saying very good news. Hold on, let me zoom in. Maybe I should open each one of these in a new tab. That would be more efficient. Go away. There we go. Look at this. You guys cannot see this, can you? Because how could I? You know what? What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna see. No, I can't miss. I'm gonna remove the chat for a second, okay? So you guys can see this. So President Trump posted very good news. I have just been informed that 8 women protesters who were going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. Okay. And saying, so these are the women that President Trump was talking about, right? These women were were up for execution by the Islamic Republic. President Trump recently posted about it, bringing attention to it, and now President Trump is giving us an update that they're going to no longer be killed. I hope that is true. I don't trust the Islamic Republic as long as because here's the thing, guys. The reason why I hope this is true. But I'm skeptical. Is that sometimes the Islamic Republic delays the execution when there's so much international pressure on certain people. The Islamic Republic will delay the execution, and once the international attention goes away, then they will execute them. That's why I hope this is true. But we need to maintain international pressure, or else, as soon as the international pressure is gone, then they might get executed again. So President Trump continues saying 4 will be released, but I don't want to come off as ungrateful, because the fact that these women are alive today is because President Trump's bringing attention to this matter, right? So don't think I am being skeptical with regards to the Islamic Republic, but I'm very, very grateful for President Trump, because these women would be dead by now if President Trump didn't talk about them like this and bringing so much attention to it. Then President Trump is saying 4 will be released immediately, and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as president of the United States and terminated the planned execution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so first of all, this shows that President Trump is very much paying attention to the situation of Iranian people. This also shows that all of the things that people said about President Trump wanting to commit genocide in Iran, that is absolutely ridiculous. Like the fact that President Trump cares about 8 women in Iran and trying to get them save their lives goes against everything people like, I don't know, like Piers Morgan and other people have been saying that President Trump, what he said is like calling for genocide. If it shows that, right? But also it shows that the Islamic Republic is desperate to give President Trump anything because they're hurting with the blockade. Do you guys agree with that? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys? I think it also demonstrates that the Islamic Republic doesn't the parts of the Islamic Republic that are trying to be flexible with President Trump really are having a hard time, because think about it. If you are Ghalibaf and Arakchi and other people who are trying to bend the knee to President Trump so that you don't die, that's a very hard thing to do, because the things that President Trump wants is hard to give. If you want, President Trump wants the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened, that is really hard to give, because even if I hold my armed forces back, the parts of IRGC that want the Hormuz Strait to be closed, they could send their armed forces, and as you saw today, to shoot at certain ships. We'll get to that. To shoot at certain ships, and that would just close the Strait of Hormuz. So even if I wanted to open the Strait of Hormuz, I cannot control all the armed forces within the Islamic regime. Also, when it comes to giving the enriched uranium, even if I wanted to give, for example, President Trump the enriched uranium, how could I stop the armed forces, the other armed forces, to allow to hold back and allow the Americans and their engineers to come and extract the uranium? It's really hard for me to do that. But this is maybe something easier that I could. Let's say President Trump came out and said, don't execute these women. I'm like, okay, I could do this. Okay, I could do this. Like, this is something I could do. So President Trump gets like happy with me, right? So this is a win-win for the parts of the IRGC that wants to signal some flexibility to President Trump. And it's also a win for, obviously, the Iranian people, because 8 of our best people, the reason why I say 8 of our best people is because these are freedom fighters. These are not average people. These are people who sacrificed their life for the liberty of Iran. And that's why I say these are our best people. So it's a win for the Iranian people, because we might have saved 8 of our best people. And then also, it's also a way for President Trump to show that he has power over at least parts of the Islamic Republic. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. Oh, thank you, Texas Troop. You're on this side. I appreciate that. All right. So the wild rumpets. Okay. I'm trying to pay attention to you guys as well, so I can make sure that I'm responding to the chat. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Yep. A plus. Okay. Fantastic. Let's go down. Okay. Let's continue with other posts from President Trump regarding Iran. Go. So, nope, not this one. Let me go down here. Okay, here's another one. President Trump posted, Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz open immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining that they are not getting paid. SOS. This is very important, because remember, guys, I was suggesting that many people within the armed forces are more financially motivated than ideologically motivated. So that's why the regime has a hard time deciding whether or not to stick with their standing for their Islamic principles and basically keep the parts of the regime who is serving the regime because they're ideologically motivated to serve the regime, or bend the knee to President Trump to open the blockade to get the money so that they could keep the parts of the regime who are financially motivated to serve the regimes, right? So people who are serving the regime, how much of it is financial, how much of it is ideological? This has been a question that we have been asking for decades now among anti-regime Iranians, and now we're going to see, because the money is tight. These people do not have their, because of the blockade, they're not going to have the same revenue, and we're going to see if they're going to be able to hold their armed forces if they can't pay them. So we're already seeing signs of complaints. This is a big deal. Then let's go down. Oh, look at this. Brigadier Gabriel posted this, and President Trump reposted this. President Trump has been preparing for this war with Iran for over 40 years. Yeah, and basically showing this video from President Trump from the 1980s talking about the same policies. We already played that for you guys before. But there was another post. I'm going to get back to that later. Yeah. This one. President Trump posted this. Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day, which is therefore what they are losing if it is closed. They only say they want it closed because I have it totally blocked closed. So they merely want to save face. People approached me 4 days ago saying, "Sir, Iran wants to open this up the strait immediately, but if we do that, there can never be a deal with Iran unless we blow up the rest of their country, their leaders included, President Donald J. Trump." Okay, so guys, this is very important. Pay attention to this. I think President Trump is choosing a method of putting pressure on the Islamic Republic that hurts the Iranian people less. I think there are multiple reasons why President Trump is preferring the blockade over military operations. So President Trump knows that it could really hurt the Islamic Republic if they go and destroy, I don't know, the power plants and their bridges, but he really wants to avoid doing that. He really wants to avoid doing that for three reasons. First, he wants the Iranian people to be able to recover after all of this. He doesn't want to use that. He will only do that option, go with that option if he has exhausted all other options. So that's reason number one. Reason number one is that he wants to leave the infrastructure for the Iranian people. So that's why he's more interested in this blockade tactic more than destroying the infrastructure tactic. That's number one. Number two is that the blockade seems to be hurting the Islamic Republic even more than the military operations. That's reason number two. Okay, do you guys agree? People are saying yes. Okay. And reason number three is because this is a lot more efficient. This is a lot more efficient, both in terms of financial cost and cost in lives. This is a lot like when it comes to military operations on bombing different parts of Iran are a lot more expensive than the naval blockade. And also, American soldiers are so much less at risk using this method. So for these three reasons, I think that President Trump is really enjoying this method more than the military operations, and that's why he extended the ceasefire, giving the reasons that they can't even respond to me because they're divided. I think President Trump is very comfortable right now where we are because he's seeing that we're causing maximum damage on the Islamic Republic with very little financial cost and also very little risk to American soldiers, and also this is going to save the infrastructure for the Iranian people. We got a super chat saying, "Armin, I feel like someone like you, if even possible, should try to talk to Destiny. He's very charitable to Israel, etc." I have been on Destiny twice already. then I reached out to him a time, after, and then he didn't respond. I would be interested in going to Destiny again. However, I do need some people. I don't want to spend time reaching out to him because I am so busy. If you could convince him to reach out to me, I will say yes. But I don't want to go chasing people to have me on. If you guys could convince them to have me on, then and they message me, I will respond, because I spent so much time telling people like, hey, do you want me to come and tell you about this thing? And I got no responses. So I first have to see an interest from them for me to do this, because or else I don't have time. Oh, also, but thank you for the super chat. And also, Sketch Therapy is saying 4 optics hitting bridges and power plants looks bad. That's true. That's true. That is a number 4. Okay, yeah, Sketch Therapy. That's also number 4. But I don't know, because also President Trump seems to be more cares less about his popularity these days than usual. He's more interested right now. He seems at least to be more interested in doing the right thing. But you're right. That's also something that we have to consider. And wow, thank you so much. We got a super sticker from M3IJ0. Oh, something Joy. Okay, well, thank you so much for the $20 super sticker with no messages, and appreciate that. Thank you. Just supporting us, I guess, right? Thank you. Okay, let me see. There's anything else? Oh, let me see. Okay, so let's go see how we got here. Let's just go see how we got here. Okay, I have a video for you guys. Let's go to Fox News because they give us good updates. Okay, hold on, let me bring Fox News on. This time I did get you. Okay, this time I did get you. Okay, anyways, I'm number 1. Okay. See, I can do it as well. Okay, sorry. See, we're gonna miss Goldie so much if I don't do that, right? So anyways, let's go to Fox News. This was from earlier, but I just want to go through it one by one so that we know how we got here. Okay, here.
Fox News alert. President Trump says the U.S. is extending the ceasefire with Iran at Pakistan's request as he waits for a, quote, unified proposal from the regime. Now, that news just breaking in the last few minutes. And Fox News White House senior correspondent Jackie Heinrich has the very latest. Jackie.
Yeah, well, what we don't know is whether the negotiating team from the U.S. side, that includes the vice president, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, is in fact going to head to the Middle East. There have been several reports that travel is on hold, potentially indefinitely, but also that it could resume at any time. We've not heard any official statement from the White House side about that travel plan, but the ceasefire has been extended apparently indefinitely while the blockade stays in place. This is what the president said, based on the fact that the government of
guys, this is going to make them. I've seen so many estimates, and I don't know if it's true because I don't have access to firsthand direct data. But some people who are looking at this directly, they're saying that I've seen anything between 2 weeks and a month for the Islamic Republic to run out of serious amount of money. I don't know how they're going to be able to pay for anything. Remember, they're if they cannot get the oil out of the Persian Gulf, they're going to be filling their tankers, and once they fill the tankers, then they have no where else to put the oil. They don't have that much space to hold the oil. Right, so all the tankers are filled, all their oil storage facilities are filled, and the oil is coming out of the oil well. And what do we do with this? They can't, they cannot just close it. If they close the oil well, it's going to damage the oil well. They can't even close it. If you stop it, it could cause permanent damage to the oil well. And they have 2 weeks or so before they get into serious trouble. And if that revenue gets cut, then they're screwed. Like they're screwed. Like they have so many things that they have to pay, and they're not going to have the money. They're not going to have the money. So this is very interesting to see where we're going to head with this. They might start selling their gold reserves of the central bank. They are probably going to be printing so much money to be able to pay their regime, the government employees and the armed forces. And again, the proxies, they're not going to like that. They're not going to want real. They're like, what is this? So maybe they could keep paying the regime forces, Iranian regime forces, by printing money, but the proxies are going to be like, what is this garbage? You're supposed to pay me in USD. They're going to go home if they don't get paid in USD, because that stuff is worthless to them back home, right? So the inflation is already like really, really high, but if they start printing money to be able to pay people, then I don't know, the inflation is going to hit, like, I don't know, Zimbabwe levels. But also they might also cut the payment to other government employees like nurses and teachers and, I don't know, firefighters and police. Everybody else might get a cut. They're saying this is wartime conditions, so we're going to cut your pay so that they could pay their armed forces and the suppressing forces. If they can't have enough oil and gas revenue, that's probably what they're going to do. That's probably what they're going to do. So let's watch this. This is very, like, I don't know what plan the Islamic Republic has.
While the blockade stays in place. This is what the president said. Based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister of Pakistan, we've been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I've therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other. There has been some analysis, including from our own General Jack Keane, talking about who actually has the power to make a deal right now inside of Iran. You have the negotiating team that includes the foreign minister, might not have the authority to sign off on a deal. A power grab happening right now from some IRGC leadership, including the new chief of the IRGC,
Vahidi.
Vahidi.
Oh, okay. She's trying to think about what the guy's name is. Vahidi. Guys, I should have the bingo card ready always. I don't know why I haven't ready. So she's like, what's his name? It's Vahidi here. There we go. Let's look at our bingo chart here. Ahmed Vahidi, the head of the IRGC commander. Okay.
Including the new chief of the IRGC, Vahidi, General Vahidi, who is sort of credited as the architect of Iran's overseas terror organizations, very big hardliner. And so there seems...
very big hardliner. What do you expect? He's IRGC. Like, is there anybody within IRGC that is not a hardliner?
To be, what the president's alluding to, some question about whether Iran's government has itself together, who it's comprised of and who we're dealing with on that side, who's got the authority to sign off on something. And the president seems willing to wait to resume fighting until this diplomatic option, if it's possible, can be hashed out. But what is unclear is whether that will include travel from the U.S. delegation. We know that the Vice President, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner were planning to go to Islamabad today. And there's been a lot of reporting saying that they have instead come to the White House. The White House has not confirmed their whereabouts or their travel plans.
Okay. All right. Just breaking a few moments ago, and you're on top of it. Thank you so much, Jackie Heinrich.
Thanks.
Hold on. You got some super chats. We need to respond to super chats, okay? So we got here a super chat saying, someone tell Trump for framing purposes, the terms revolution and God bless Iran needs to appear in speeches. Yeah, that would be a huge morale boost if they do appear in speeches. You're right. I saw Sketch Therapy saying something I wanted to highlight, that is saying, U.S. can tell them, I'll accept your tankers. and empty them, but I won't pay you. I'm just helping you keep the wells open. Yeah, that's actually a good strategy. Yeah, like, hey, you can't sell these, but if you want the wells not to get damaged, I'll empty those oil tankers for you. I'll just keep the oil. But at least I'll take that off your hands. That's a good if you need to, if you need storage spaces. That's actually, you know. and then super chat, another super chat by Jonathan saying President Trump and Munir have a good relationship. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. General Munir is pro-American, and Prime Minister Sharif has a close relationship with Pakistan. Both of them are enemies of the Islamic Republic, right? So the Prime Minister has a close relationship with Saudi Arabia. Sorry, yeah, what did I say? Pakistan. No, so sorry. Let me say that again. General Munir, the head of the army in Pakistan, has a good relationship with the United States, and Prime Minister Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, has a really good relationship with Saudi Arabia. Both of them are enemies of the Islamic Republic. There you go. I said it. Oh, guys, I've been invited. Wow, guys. Okay, so I got a Zoom link. I got a Zoom link. I'm supposed to go to. Here, let me see. Which channel is this? I forgot. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. Is this channel 12? I forgot. Okay, never mind. I'm going on an Israeli news channel. This is so embarrassing. I forgot what channel this is. I think it's channel. Is it I-24 or channel 12? I forgot. It's okay. I'm going into. I'm gonna be doing a news segment soon, and I'm very excited. And so forgot which channel it was, but it's yeah. But soon I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna talk. And so I just got a Zoom link and I just responded that. Why don't I remember this? That's so embarrassing. She's been so nice to me, and I don't even remember. Oh wait, no, forgot. Not now. I remember. Now I remember. Okay, she told me. OAN. It's not Israel. It's OAN. One American News. So okay, fantastic. She told me, and I was like forgotten. Okay, so I'm going to an American channel, news channel. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yes. So I was reading the super chat saying President Trump and Munir have a good relationship, but Pakistan has never been a stable country and may be looking for U.S. aid for Afghan war. So I think that Pakistan is trying to change. The Pakistan's government is trying to change the global image, right? So when you think Pakistan, what do you think? When you think Pakistan, you think blasphemy laws, durka, jihadi. You know, you think. Oh my god, should I say that, guys? No offense to Pakistanis, the good Pakistanis who are here, because guys, I know people from Pakistan who are on our side, who are fighting for secularism, for the right values. They're trying to fight to free the country. So no offense to them. I'm not talking about them, okay? But yes, you know exactly what I was gonna say. I'm here. You know me so well. I think of inbreeding. Exactly. I think of inbreeding. Okay. Now, grooming gangs, you're thinking Pakistan in the UK. When you say grooming gangs, you're thinking of Pakistanis in the UK. I'm thinking Pakistan. I'm not thinking UK Pakistan. I'm thinking Pakistan. Right. So when I think Pakistan, I think that the most extremist levels of Islam, and I also think inbreeding. Right. So, which is not a good mix. So those are the things that you think of when you think Pakistan, right? And that is not good for Pakistan for that to be the image. So they're trying to improve their international image using these talks, right? And to be fair, it is effective. It is effective. Them being the mediator between United States and the Islamic Republic, it is somewhat effective. Having President Trump and what is her name, Caroline Levitt, constantly coming out and praising them, praising General Munir, praising Prime Minister Sharif globally all the time in the news. People are like, oh, the Pakistani said this, the Pakistani said that. Keep saying President Trump praising General Munir, praising Prime Minister Sharif. That helps improve your international standing, right? And we got more super chats. Let's go through them. So Epic Fury. Oh, it's Nina. Hi, Nina. Saying Epic Fury, Economic Fury. What will we call number 3? The People's Fury. The Iranian people, right? Because what's the next phase should be, the next phase at some point will be the uprising of the Iranian people, right? So if the next phase is the uprising of the Iranian people, I guess. So we had Epic Fury for the military operation, the economic fury, which we will get to. I need to talk about more about the economic, because the economic fury is not just the ships. It's not just a naval blockade. It's also Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is a huge part of the economic fury, and we have to discuss it as well. And then, yeah, what will we call number 3? The people's fury. Oh, okay. Let me see. I'll get to that super chat. Somebody saying, dude, what are you? Okay, this is Defiant Brandon saying, dude, what are you using to stream? StreamYard or OBS? I'm using StreamYard, getting blurring, lag on tab sharing. I just type response if you can. Wait. Oh, no, sorry. Just type response if you can. I use StreamYard. Maybe the ones that we have is the paid version. Maybe if you're using it, if it's pixely, maybe because you're using the free version. I'm saying Armin would have said Englandistan if he meant to. Armin would have said Englandistan if he meant to. Okay, so in it, by the way, I don't know if you guys know, Englistan is something that Englistan is how in Iran we refer to England. So England is already, like, when I grew up in Iran, England was called Englistan, not Englandistan, Englistan. Because you don't need to, because you know why it wouldn't be Englandistan? Because you're saying land twice. So you already have land, and Istan is land. So you're saying the land of the Anglo, and then there's 2 land of in there. So Istan is the land of, land is the land of. So you need to remove one of the lands. So you remove the English land and put the Istan land, and it would be Englistan. Right? You can't say land of twice. Do you guys get it? You understand? Englistan. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we have, yeah, just Istan just means land of. So England is land of the the Anglo. Okay. And yeah, that's how it works. And then we have another super chat saying, by Amir. Thank you so much for the super chat saying, Armin, yesterday an important super chat been skipped. It's the Patipto recent speech posted where? Posted by somebody. Okay, let me see if I could get the link, because I can't click it on StreamYard. Oh, okay, fantastic. Do you guys want me to play this right now? Patipto's speech? I could play it right now. Let me bring it up. Yes? Okay, fantastic. All right, got it, guys. Got it. Thank you, Amir. Oh, here.
to
Guys, imagine if I rickroll you now, that would be so bad. That would be so bad. And if I say like, guys, here's Potipta's speech, and then I rickroll you, oh my god, you would hate me. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to you. Okay, I promise. I'm not that bad. Okay. Okay. All right, let's do that.
to all my brothers and sisters listening from all of the world. As you know, I am speaking to you from inside Iran, and for obvious reasons, you cannot see my face. But you know my voice. You have heard it crack with grief, and you have heard it soar with hope. Today marks exactly 100 days since the nights of January 8th and 9th, and 100 days since the earth shook beneath the Islamic Republic, and 100 days since the course of Iranian history was violently, beautifully, and permanently altered. If you want to understand what the last 100 days have been like inside Iran, imagine a heart being torn out, set on fire, and then placed back into a chest that is finally learning how to breathe. It started with the call when Prince Reza Pahlavi asked us to stand. We didn't just stand, we surged. For those 48 hours in early January, millions of us flooded the streets. We tasted an absolute, unadulterated joy for the first time in generations. The fear evaporated. We looked to our left and right and saw a nation reborn, chanting the name of Prince who represented the very history the regime tried to erase.
Hey to Reza Pahlavi, come to Iran. Baby Netanyahu, please come to Iran. Please help to Iranian people. Ayatollah killed my people. Please help.
But the regime's answer was a slaughter. The internet went dark, and the machine guns mounted on trucks opened fire. The sheer disbelief we felt in days that followed as body bags ran out and 18-wheelers carried away our bravest children was paralyzing. They tried to drown our revolution in blood. We were thrown into a valley of despair, wondering if the world had simply closed its eyes to a massacre of more than 13,000 souls. And then the impossible happened, the assassination of Ali Khamenei.
Ayatollah Khamenei is dead.
The architect of our misery, the dictator who ordered our children executed, was gone. The euphoria that swept through our neighborhoods, the celebrations, the tears of pure, vindicative happiness, it was turning point that proved the regime was not invisible. They could bleed, they could die. From there, we navigated the maddening games of international politics. We endured the roller coaster of President Donald Trump's emotional games, the shifting promises, the sudden strikes, and the eventual ceasefire. It was exhausting, but through every political maneuver and every headline, one truth remained unshakable. We were no longer waiting to be saved, we were forcing the world to react to us. Let us be clear, With the world today, this revolution did not started in 2022, nor did it started in 100 days ago. The Iranian People's Revolution began the very second the Islamic Republic hijacked our nation in 1979. For over 4 decades, we have been a captive nation, fighting an occupying force from within. And for those same 4 decades, Prince Reza Pahlavi walked a path of complete solitude. He was mocked by the regime. He was ignored by Western politicians who preferred appeasing terrorists to supporting freedom. He carried the weight of an exiled crown with no guarantee that his nation would ever call him back. But he is our voice because we, the people, screamed his name into the void until the world was forced to listen. Today, we are entering the final phase of this long, bloody war. The board is set, and the pieces are finally in our favor. The issue is no longer whether the Islamic Republic will fall. The only issue is the timing of its collapse, and that time is closer than ever. The Iranian people and the king are moving to the absolute top of the battlefield. The transition is no longer a dream, it is an active, ongoing operation. The Israel, IDF, and Israeli people has stood as a genuine ally to the Iranian people, striking the head of octopus while we dismantle its tentacles. With the United States now actively supporting Iranian people and our revolution, the geopolitical isolation of Iranian people has ended. I want to say something directly to the IRGC, the Basij, and the regime propagandists, desperately trying to project a strength. You are walking ghosts. No matter what hypocrisy you spew on your state run media, no matter what hollow threats your so called commanders make, we see right through you. Your supreme leader is dead. Your proxies are crumbling. The streets you patrol no longer belong to you. You are no longer a thing to be feared. You are simply an obstacle waiting to be removed. And to the Iranian people, the nightmare is ending. It is finally our turn. It is our turn to taste power. It is our turn to dispense justice. We will see each other in free Iran. That's it. Thank you.
Wow, that was so good. All right, guys, I'm gonna share this with you in the chat. If you guys want this link to this, if you want to share this around. Wow, it only got 65 views. You guys, here, I'll give you the link to this video in the chat. There you go. The link is in the chat. Oh, thank you, Amir, for the. Thank you so much, Amir, for the support. Amir, you support us a lot, so many times. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, do you guys? I'm gonna post it again in case you missed the link because the chat moves. Okay, so I posted it in the chat twice. So there's that. Now, and thank you, Amir, for showing us this video. That was such an important video to share. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Now we need to go talk about this more recent thing that just happened, which is a huge escalation, which is that the Islamic Republic is now shooting at ships, and they seized 2 ships at the Strait of Hormuz right after President Trump said and came out and said that we're extending the ceasefire. Then they started attacking ships and taking ships. So this is big escalation. So let's go through that.
Breaking news out of the Middle East. Iranian state media claiming the country attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and 2 of the vessels are apparently now in the control of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
This is Axios reports that President Trump is giving Iran 3 to 5 days to unify behind a ceasefire counteroffer.
Wait, 3 to 5 days? Do we have a deadline? Like, do we have so President Trump didn't give, in the post that I saw from President Trump, there was no timeline. And now are we saying that, remember, guys, President Trump said until they come up with a unified response. So where is this 3 to 5 days is coming from? So this is, President Trump is trying to avoid using military operations right now, again, because the blockade is working very well. But there are parts of IRGCs that are happy with this, but there are other parts of IRGC that actually prefer that they go back into war. Guys, there are parts of the pro-regime people who are not at all comfortable with diplomacy. From their perspective, the Islamic Republic always has the upper hand from their perspective in the battlefield. As soon as you stop the battle and then you get to the negotiating table, the enemies have the upper hand. So they don't like ceasefire. They're like, no, let's keep fighting. And even though Ghalibaf and Arakchi and President Trump are like trying to talk and have a ceasefire, the parts of IRGC that was like, no, what do you mean? Like we were on a roll here. Let's go back fighting. And this is why it's so hard to even maintain a ceasefire with the Islamic Republic. Watch this.
Now in the control of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
This is Axios reports that President Trump is giving Iran 3 to 5 days to unify behind a ceasefire counteroffer. That's getting their side on the same page, let alone getting us on the same page with them. Lucas Tomlinson joins us now with the details. Lucas, what's the problem with Iran?
Well, Brian, just hours after President Trump extended the ceasefire to Iran indefinitely, it appears that Iran is already breaking it, opening fire on at least 3 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz and commandeering 2 of them. And President Trump announcing the ceasefire yesterday on Truth Social. I'll read it to you, Brian, and everyone. It says, quote, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded.
So see, that didn't have a timeline, but Texas Troop just sent me a link that from Axios that suggests a timeline. Let's see if we could look at that. So this is apparently the source of, oh my God, this is so white. Here, that's better. Okay, Trump gives Iran days to end power struggle, return to peace talks. Saying President Trump is giving Iran's warring factions a short window to unify behind coherent counteroffer or the ceasefire he extended Tuesday. And okay, so where's the days though? Trump is willing to give another 3. Okay, here. Trump is willing to give another 3 to 5 days of ceasefire to allow the Iranians to get their SHIT together. See, Goldie's not here, but I'm behaving, right? One U.S. source briefed on the matter said it is not going to be open-ended. So we don't know who this person is, but apparently somebody from a U.S. source, somebody from the White House told Axios, and we don't know who the source is for this deadline. Let's go back to here.
Now, early this morning, the first attack by Iranian gunboats took place in the Strait of Hormuz, causing heavy...
Guys, maybe I should have Goldie up. Goldie is not here, but maybe I should, because so many people, you guys miss her so much. I'm going to have her like here, like this, just so that we could have the feeling of Goldie being with us without having her with us. Is that better? I think if I have her account up here, we can feel like she's with us here. Is that better? Do you guys prefer that? I think that's better.
Damage such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded. Now, early this morning, the first attack by Iranian gunboats took place in the Strait of Hormuz, causing heavy damage to the bridge where you drive the ship, of course. The second attack took place 8 miles off the coast of Iran, the third attack nearby. Ship tracking shows a Panamanian flagged and Liberian flagged vessels attacked and seized. Iran's state broadcaster says the two vessels are currently inside Iran.
Wow, you guys actually do feel a lot better. Look at this. Thank you. I feel much more comfortable now. Amir was saying, yes, Armin, it actually does feel better. Wow. Okay, I didn't know it makes that much of a difference. That's great. Okay. So okay, now you guys don't feel abandoned by Goldie. Good. Okay, I'll keep her account up. I'm joking, by the way. She's
Iran's territorial. Iran's state broadcaster says the two vessels are currently inside Iran's territorial waters, being held for inspection of their cargo, documentation, and related records. Recalls just a few days ago, on Friday, in fact, when President Trump said Iran would never again close the Strait of Hormuz. Last night, he said financial pressure is key to ending the war, posting, quote, Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining that they are not getting paid. SOS. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance's trip to Islamabad for a second round of talks with Iran continues to be on hold. Iran says they are not sending a delegation until the blockade is lifted. And certainly, Brian, you have to imagine that after Iran commandeered.
This is going to make it very difficult for the Islamic Republic to, they basically tied their own hands. So the Islamic Republic is saying, we're not going to come to the negotiating table before the blockade is removed. Okay. So now, if the blockade really hurts them, really hurts them, and they're like, okay, fine, look, we want to come to the negotiating table, it's going to look really embarrassing internally with the regime supporters, because they're going to say, you told them that you're not going to meet with them until the blockade is open, and now the blockade is not open and you're meeting with them. What gives? Right? So, and also, guys, please understand that the Islamic Republic attacking these ships in the Strait of Hormuz, they're just like, they're doing that because they're so angry that the Iranian ports, there's a blockade on the Iranian ports, and the only way they could lash out right now, they have no other leverage. Like their missiles, they don't have that many missiles or missile launchers. They don't have an air force. They don't have a navy other than the speedboats that they have. They can't cause much damage to Israel. Guys, like Israel just had their celebration for their Independence Day without having to worry about missiles that much or drones that much. There are not that many countries that are getting attacked anymore. So the only thing they can do is send out on some speedboats with, I don't know, with guns on them, and then shoot at ships. That's the only thing they could do. And they're basically lashing out against America like, open the ports, open the ports. So they have two leverages. They're like, we're going to send our speedboats to shoot at ships, one, and take some of the ships. That's one. And two, we're not going to come to the negotiating table. That's the only two leverages that they have right now, and they're using it. The other leverage that they might at some point, they're trying to add a third leverage, which is by talking to their proxies, especially the Houthis and the Hashd al-Shabi in Iraq, the Houthis to try to close the Bab al-Mandab Strait, and the Hashd al-Shabi to maybe start attacking Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. That's why they sent Ghani to Iraq. They sent Ghani to Iraq to talk to Hashd al-Shabi or the Popular Mobilization Forces to get their proxies in Iraq to maybe start to get them to attack Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, because they don't have that much more to play with. They don't have that many cards, right? So if you could just, let me see actually what's Brent at, because let me see if their pressure, wait, okay, hold on. Brent crude oil price, we're at 101. Okay, it's not too bad. It's not too. We're above 100 again, but it's not enough pressure. I think the United States could hold the blockade with not too much problem. Let's also see where S&P 500 is at. Oh my God, S&P 500 is doing really well. So the markets are not reacting badly. Because the reason why the markets are not doing badly, even if oil prices are at above 100, is because oil dependency has been reduced. Like it used to be, global markets used to be impacted by oil prices a lot more historically. But now, because we have so many alternative sources of energy, it does have an impact still, but because oil dependency has been reduced, it doesn't have the same impact as it used to have. So look at this, like year over year, we're up 34%. Over the past month, we're up 8%. Like the market gains over the past 1 month is something that you would be happy with if it was year over year. But year over year, we're 34%. So economically, we're comfortable. This is not hurting us that much. So that's why the blockade could continue. And guys, I will get to the super chats. Oh, Texas is saying treated as an unverified report. It could have been a plant as part of the maximum pressure 2.0 campaign. Yeah, maybe anything is possible. Okay, let's continue with this.
2 ships attacking 3 of them. That also will jeopardize these talks in Islamabad.
I would say so. Thanks so much. And that's kind of new, Lucas, that we didn't know they were holding on to the ships, UK and Panamanian. And also 21 minutes ago, the senior Iranian.
Yeah, so they're holding it to 2 ships.
Say so. Thanks so much. And that's kind of new.
By the way, this is going to give a lot of ammunition to President Trump to show that we are trying to do a ceasefire. They're attacking the ships.
New, Lucas, that we didn't know they were holding on to the ships, UK and Panamanian. And also 21 minutes ago, the senior Iranian advisor says the U.S. blockade is no different than bombing us and must be responded with a military response. Wow. And that is the speaker, Mahani Mohammed.
So, yeah, somebody saying whose ships? I think it was Panama and UK.
He responded with a military response. And that is the speaker, Mahani Mohammadi, an advisor to the parliament speaker, came out with that statement, we assume, from the speaker. So let's see. Do they want to end the ceasefire, Lawrence?
They don't. They don't want to end it. They will want a time to delay, to regroup, and I don't think it's going to work out for them. I mean, we've been watching them the whole time. We have complete control of the skies. You know, they shot one of our guys down, but we were able to recover both of our pilots. So that didn't go well for their morale as well. So we got control of the sea, control of the skies. Also, those drone facilities, we've knocked most of those out. So again, as the general continued to say, we're on the 5-yard line right now.
Yeah, you're right. We've continuously heard that. We're on the 5-yard line. We've got to finish. We've got to make that touchdown, and we've got to bleed them dry, and that's what President Trump is doing, costing them $500 million a day. They have all this oil. They have nowhere to send it because they can't send it to Carg Island because that oil, those tanks are full, and they want to put them on ships and send them to other countries around the world, but those ships are not allowed to leave their ports, and that's because of President Trump. You would think that they would just hand over their nuclear,
but even if they, and also even if some of them could make it out, it's really hard to get paid for it because Operation Economic Fury, which is being led by Scott Bessent, which we will get to. So even if some of them went through, which they haven't, but guys, there has been some fake news apparently. So we got some reports about, I don't know, 20-something shadow ships making it through. Apparently that was denied by CENTCOM. So maybe I should go look at CENTCOM and find the denial as well. So apparently that was fake news. I did not know that. But okay, let's continue.
That's because of President Trump. You would think that they would just hand over their nuclear, enriched uranium to us, because is this really worth it to believe?
Yeah, I mean, to them it is worth it actually, because if they give up the enriched uranium, then they will lose all legitimacy among their followers, and that would be the end of them. So I mean, to be fair, guys, the Islamic Republic is doing the correct calculation. Like, as bad as this is, it's not as bad as giving up the enriched uranium and basically losing the very little legitimacy that you have within Iran, within your regime supporters. Then you have completely betrayed all of the ideals of the Islamic Revolution. If you do that, you have basically pissed on the blood of the supreme leader, and you basically have gone against all of his teachings and everything that he said. So if you do that, that would be the end of you. If you do that, that would be the end of you, right? So yeah, I don't think that it does make sense for the Islamic Republic to not give out the enriched uranium. It also, guys, it makes, well, here's the thing. It makes sense for Ghalibaf to want to give it up. You know why? Because he doesn't want to die. It also makes sense for the other parts of the IRGC not to want to give it up. Everybody is actually doing their right thing for their own survival. Ghalibaf is desperate to be flexible because he knows if these negotiations don't go through successfully, he will be removed from the no-kill list. The reason why he's alive is that the Israelis are not killing him, even though they can. They're not killing him because President Trump has put Ghalibaf and Araghchi on a no-kill list. And the only reason why they are on a no-kill list is because President Trump thinks that they might be useful to maybe surrender the Islamic Republic. And if they don't prove themselves to be useful to President Trump, they will be removed from that no-kill list, and then the Israelis will take them out. Do you understand? So Ghalibaf is fighting for his life. The IRGC is fighting for the survival of IRGC, which will be completely jeopardized if they give up the enriched uranium, because they will have basically no more legitimacy anymore among regime supporters. And Ghalibaf is fighting for his life. So everybody is actually doing what they're supposed to do if they were fighting for their survival.
Because of President Trump, you would think that they would just hand over their nuclear, your enriched uranium to us. Because is this really worth it? To bleed them dry, to lose their economy?
It seems to be for the IRGC, which might be separate from the foreign minister.
How much longer can they handle this? How much longer?
The one thing they have is that so-called Mosquito Navy, the small boats that can go and do damage to big boats. We learned a lot from the USS Cole about how to defend ourselves on that. But these other tankers really have no defense.
Be sure to
that's actually a very good point. Okay, so there's so many little speedboats, and we saw in Venezuela, Americans were really good at finding speedboats, filled with drugs and shooting them. Okay, but those, I don't know, if you have so many oil tankers trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz, trying to take out all of these speedboats, it might be a very more difficult thing to do, right? But again, Brent is not up that much. The economy is doing fine, so I don't even know if these boats are doing that much of a damage to the world economy. The blockade on the Iranian ports are doing way more damage on the Islamic Republic than the speedboats are doing when it comes to their blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. So we could just keep going until they're completely bankrupt and they can't pay anyone anymore. I wonder, by the way, guys, what would you do if you were IRGC? You have to choose between your ideological standing and your financial standing, right? You have to figure out which one of these are more important to me. Are people fighting for me because I pay them, or are people fighting for me because they believe in me? That's the challenge here. If people fight for me because they believe in me, then I have to maintain my principles and keep fighting and not surrender. But if people are fighting for me because I pay them, then at some point I have to bend the knee, because if I can't pay them, then they're not going to fight anymore, right? But the worst situation is that if there's 50-50, for example, let's say it's 50, let's say it's like a mix. Then if it's a mix, then either way I'm screwed, because if half of my armed forces, because then I can't choose any of these. because if my armed forces gets cut in half or get cut by a percentage, it's not going to be effective anymore anyways. Well, I mean, it might be effective. It could be still effective enough to suppress the Iranian people. Yeah, but also we saw that in early January, when we saw the massacre happening, they had to hire mercenaries from outside, right? And the mercenaries, they kill for cash. Okay, so within the IRGC, there are many people that are called the Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic. And I bet that the vast majority of them, even the ones who believe in the regime, they can't shoot into crowds of Iranian people. There's still part of them that is still Iranian, and a huge section of them, and I have evidence for this. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. Okay, so guys, these people are Durka jihadi, but they're still deep inside. There's their humanity, and there's them being Iranian, that makes them difficult, even though they believe in the Islamic Republic, for them to just get a machine gun and shoot into crowds of people. There are some of them who would do that, but there are also many of them who wouldn't. And the reason why we know that, you know what our evidence is? Because if they were so willing to shoot into crowds of Iranian people, then the regime wouldn't have to hire mercenaries from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Like, the IRGC has like hundreds of thousands of armed forces. Why would you need to bring in like 5,000 or 10,000 people from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan to shoot into crowds of people if you have hundreds of thousands within your armed forces? Right? That's my evidence that there's a lot of hesitation within IRGC to shoot into the Iranian people. I mean, I hope that's true. I might be wrong about that. Like, they might say, like, yes, Allah Akbar, my life for Ali Khamenei, but when they see people in the streets and you tell them to, like, this is why they also use drugs. This is why we saw so many of these people on drugs, because the regime knows that this is difficult for them to shoot into people, so they put them on drugs. And this is why, guys, for example, during the Holocaust, they in the concentration camps, to kill the Jews, they used gas chambers, because the Nazi soldiers were having difficulties mentally. They were having a hard time killing that many Jews. Like, it was psychologically affecting them. So the Nazi leadership decided that the best way to do this, if you look at the memos in their meetings, they decided to separate the people who were killing the Jews from the visuals of the Jews dying. So even the Nazi soldiers couldn't handle killing that many people. So the gas chamber, the whole point of the gas chambers, like, well, not the whole point, it was also financial issues. But one of the points of the gas chambers is so that the people who are killing the Jews, they don't see the Jews dying. And not just the Jews, by the way, the Jews, LGBT, the Gypsies, Romanis, I don't know, and the people that were the political dissent, all of them, right? So, but for some reason, the proxy groups are more willing to shoot into the crowds of people than Iranian IRGC soldiers. And they want dollars. They don't want this worthless real. They want US dollars. So maybe by suffocating the regime to the point where they can't pay the mercenaries, then the suppressing ability of the regime will become much lower. Let me actually respond to some of the super chats. Oh, yeah, look at this. Neil Bunny saying SS soldiers in camps had to get drunk every night to escape what they were doing. Yeah, and also they were hiding it from their own families. Like, like, not even the families of the top leadership of the people who were responsible for the operations in the concentration camps. They wouldn't tell their families what they're doing. So let me see. Okay, so Oh yeah, oh wow, we got so many super chats. Thank you guys. Amir just gave us a super sticker. Thank you so much, Amir. And then uh, Bar Mustal is saying nothing's over until the regime's gone. Know this. Yep, I mean I agree with that. I mean, not even then it's not over. Let me actually tell you this. Not even then it's over. Do you want to know why? Because we are not done with these monsters once we liberate Iran. We're going to have to hunt them down wherever they are. Guys, when Israel became a country, when the Holocaust was over and the Nazis fell, the Jews didn't stop fighting. That was the beginning of the fight for the Jews. That was not the end of the fight for the Jews. That was the beginning. To this day, the Jews are fighting against all their enemies. And the Jews, they went and found their oppressors all around the world, and they started hunting them down. So the Iranian people's fight against their oppressors, this is just the first chapter. Once we're liberated, we finally will be able to use all our resources to build an army, to build our intelligence operations, to get to work, to go and find and hunt down all of these people, Hashd Shabi, Zainabiyun, Fatimiyun, Hamas, anything that is remains of these people. We're going to be working with the Americans and the Israelis to find these people and hunt them down one by one. Yeah, I know it wasn't the beginning, but it wasn't the beginning of their fight, but it was the beginning of the fight finally being more fair, right? It's the beginning in the sense now we're talking. Now we have an army. Now we have an advanced military. That in that sense is the beginning. Not that they weren't fighting before. Obviously, they were fighting before. Yeah, and thank you for thank you for being a member. And then we have White House statement after that set the three. Oh yeah, the state set the 3 to 5 days. Okay, so there was a statement from the White House that mentioned 3 to 5 days. Okay, and then thank you. And then Happy Hindu is saying Max Amini finally spoke against the regime and in support of the revolution. And Javid Shah, in an interview with BBC Today, everyone can see it coming. Oh, okay, interesting. Thank you so much for the super chat. We got another super chat here saying Iran. Thank you so much, by the way, for this, saying Iran doesn't want Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day, which is what they are losing if it is closed. They say they want it closed because I have it blocked. They want to save face. This is a post by President Trump. The way I see it is that the Islamic Republic wants the Strait of Hormuz to be open for them, for the Islamic Republic, but closed for everyone else, and everybody else wants them to go through. They have to pay a toll. That's what their ideal situation is, and now their situation is kind of becoming like reverse, in the sense that it's close to them the most. It's close to the Islamic Republic the most because of the U.S. blockade. So I'm saying we got a super chat saying overly censored chat against free speech here, I see. Okay, so let me educate you about what free speech means. So my chat and Goldie's chats have different rules. So I don't know which chat are you talking about. So I don't know which rules apply to you. But it doesn't really matter because neither me or the Goldie are the government. Okay, so when you don't understand what free speech means. Free speech doesn't mean that you have the right to every platform. Free speech that means that your speech and your expression doesn't get punished by the government. That means that you don't get fined. That means that you don't get imprisoned. That means that you don't get tortured. that means that you don't get executed, and that means that your rights are not taken away by the government. Free speech doesn't mean that everybody has to tolerate your speech. Free speech doesn't mean that you're free from the consequences of your speech. So, for example, if you say something and your boss fires you because you said that, that is not a violation of your speech because your boss is not the government. If you have the freedom of speech, your boss, for example, also has the freedom of speech. That's their expression. That's their freedom of not wanting to work with somebody with your views. Freedom of speech doesn't mean that people have to tolerate you all the time with whatever views that you have. It just means that the government is not going to punish you. It doesn't mean that other people are not going to punish you. It doesn't mean, for example, imagine if I just came to your house and started reading the Communist Manifesto to your kids, and you're like, get out of my house. You told me get out of my house. I'm like, no, this is my free speech. No, you are in their environment. It's their environment. They get to decide what is said in their environment. Freedom of speech means that you could go and say that somewhere else. It doesn't mean that you get to have access to every single platform and every single audience. People get to choose the environment that they created. They get to choose what type of people they want there. That is their right. It's not a violation of free speech. And in fact, anybody thinking that they could impose their views on any community, even if they're not welcome there, that is the violation of their right. So this is there's a huge misunderstanding of what freedom of speech means, and people always say that when they get banned, when they get, when their comments are removed, they usually say that. Oh, you're welcome. People are saying, thanks, Armin, for explaining this to some people. Yeah, no worries. I could do that. Oh, we got another super chat saying, any chance we can see Nala and Pucci today? They're at my other place. If they're ever here, I will bring them up. Okay, but thank you. Well, appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love them and I miss them when they're not here. And wait, we got another super chat saying, before I was just commenting on how UK is Islamic country. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. Was this someone else? Okay, that was someone. Okay, yeah. Before I was just commenting on how UK is Islamic country. Okay, okay, but that was someone else. Is that I don't understand this comment. Before I was just commenting on how UK is Islamic country. Okay. Oh, wait. Let me respond to this. The UK is not, guys. I think that with saying UK is an Islamic country is an exaggeration. The way I think that the way we should phrase it. Oh, I need to go to the discussion group soon. But guys, do you guys want to see the discussion group today? When we go to the discussion group, do you guys want to see it live? Because we could go live while I'm in the discussion group. So I could play it for you, our discussion there. Do you guys want that? You could see inside. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. You guys are saying yes. Okay. So let me respond to this, because if you disagree with me, you could come and say that to me in the discussion group. Okay. So calling the UK an Islamic country, I think, is an exaggeration, and it's going to hurt our ability to save the UK. I think the more accurate way of describing what's happening in the UK is that the UK is being negatively influenced by Islam a lot. Like, we have an attempted internal invasion of Islam gradually of the UK. Not that they will ever completely be able to take over. I don't think so. But we don't have to wait for that to happen for us to be concerned. What the levels that we already are at is extremely concerning. I don't think like we have or ever will reach to the point where we could call UK an Islamic country. But guys, any amount of Islam is bad. Any amount of Islam is bad. You don't have to have full Sharia rule to be like, okay, now things are bad. Even the smallest amount of Islam is always bad, even in small doses. Okay. So when you say that, oh my, like when you say, oh, UK is going to be taken over by Islam or has been taken over by Islam, what we're suggesting is that we have to get to those levels for us to be concerned. I think that you should be concerned about Islam even if you are at very small doses of Islam. Very small doses of Islam in your country, that is bad. And when we talk like that, and if it statistically is shown that that's not the truth, then our concerns will not be taken seriously. So because, for example, if I say like the population, like the influence of Islam is becoming bigger in UK, and I want to talk about that and raise a concern, and some other people say like, oh, it's full Sharia takeover, then when statistically is shown that we don't have full Sharia takeover, then my concern compared to that other concern is going to look not important. Like when I say like, look, they're passing these laws because they're trying to appeal to the Muslim population in the UK. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. But you're like, okay, but it's not full Sharia takeover like these people say, so I guess we're okay. I'm like, no, we're not okay. This is not okay. You should not be okay with this. Like, well, they told us we're going to have full Sharia takeover, and that's not happening, so we're good. Like, no, like, this is not good. Yeah, I'm gonna link to this community soon. But what do you guys agree with me? What do you guys think? Hold on. Yes, okay. And then we got another super chat saying, hey, before 1948, individual Jewish Americans illegally sent arms into UK mandate Palestine. Are Iranian expats doing the same? Well, before 1948, individual Jewish Americans illegally sent. So the Iranian expats are not doing that at all. They're not in a position to do that. UK mandate Palestine. Yeah. So, by the way, not everything illegal is wrong. I know there are certain things that we could judge as wrong that happened during that time, but this was not one of them. Because I think, I'm not saying you are saying it was wrong, but I'm just saying that illegal doesn't always mean bad, especially if you're fighting for your survival. Illegal doesn't mean bad. And no, the Iranian people are not doing that because there's no way to do that right now. When it comes to a matter of survival, anything you do for your survival cannot be judged as bad, even if it's illegal. Yeah, for example, letting Jews live in Nazi Germany was illegal, for example. Exactly. And at some point. Okay. So, guys, I'm going to go to the discussion group. Let me bring it up here. I'm not going to leave you guys. Oh, we got another super chat. Okay, after this, hold on to your super chat so I could go to the discussion group. I need to tell them that we're going to, I don't want to surprise them by telling them that we're showing the live, the discussion group live, so that I need to tell them that before I go there. But hold on. Let me respond to the super chat saying the blockade is effective. Why start shooting when the IRGC are fighting between themselves? Funny how the mainstream media thinks Taco Trump is back. Yep. So I think you're right. I think that Trump actually did the right thing. He didn't chicken out. It's actually when the IRGC is fighting, don't stop your enemy when they're fighting each other. It doesn't make sense to do a military operation right now unless the IRGC forces the United States to do military operations because they're attacking ships. But right now, the United States might be dragged into doing military operation, but the most effective strategy right now is to maintain the blockade and let the IRGC's internal division to keep escalating. Oh, we got another super chat. You're saying so there's no way to smuggle arms in? There's no way to smuggle arms in without making sure that it gets to the right people and that you're not arming the IRGC itself, unless you liberate one city. And by Americans liberate a city like Bandar Abbas, and they turn it into a base of operations and create a vetting process. To make sure that they're giving the guns to the right people, and also so they need to vet them, they need to train them, and they need to arm them. And also, when it comes to arms, it needs to be guns and drones, and the training for that takes about 4 months, I think, at least. So the only people who could create an environment where you could effectively vet, train, and then arm the Iranian people would be the Americans, because you don't want to accidentally be sending more guns to IRGC. Okay, let me go into the discussion group, guys, so I could tell people there. Oh, wait, I forgot to give you guys the link to come join the discussion group. Here. So let me pin it at the top as well. So guys, you see the link in the chat, right? If you want to come talk to me, that would be it. Let me actually, I forgot to, you know what? I'm going to review this tweet that I'm showing here. I'm going to review it once I'm in the discussion group, because I forgot this is an important post by Scott Bessent. I will talk about it once I'm in the discussion group. Give me a second. So guys, let me just talk to the people there. Hey guys, before you say anything else, I'm about to show you guys live on air. So just wanted to give you fair warning that today's discussion will be live on YouTube. And let me actually also hit the, okay, so mute your mics just a second, and let me just hold, so yeah, record. Do we have any mods here today? Ali, would you be able to help mod today, or are you not available for that? Okay, fantastic. All right, so let me actually share the screen. And guys, now you're on YouTube as well. So smile for YouTube. And here, I'll put the link to the discussion group in the chat as well. And yeah, okay, so Ali, by the way, because I don't know, it's going to be complicated for me to share my screen and show you guys tweets and stuff. I mean, maybe I can, but it will look weird if I'm showing it both on YouTube. Let me see if I want to like share a tweet with the discussion group. Would that look good both on the discussion group and YouTube at the same time? Or no, it's not going to look good. So if you guys want to share more stuff today, I would appreciate that, so that people could see what you guys are talking about. But anyway, so the way this works, guys, so we're recording this. So if you are in the discussion group and you don't want to speak while recording, just wait for 2 hours. And then after the 2 hours is over, when I leave, you guys could continue the conversation without me, and it will be not recorded at that point. And also, if you want to speak, put a 1 in the chat, and Ali will add you to a list so that you could speak. And if you want to respond to what we are talking about, to the topic that is already being discussed, and put a 2 in the chat, and Ali will put you in a list so that you could talk as well. So I see already Noah wants to speak. So Noah, you go ahead. Noah.
Yes. When Iran is free, should Armin shave his head? No, I'm kidding. No. I think so. What are the reasons why Trump extended the ceasefire indefinitely instead of putting a timeline? That's because when I heard the news, I was very curious, but I was also a little upset at first because we all thought the ceasefire was going to end and war would resume. But yeah, And sorry for that joke, by the way.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Let's just get to the questions faster because we're also on YouTube and we want to give people an
Right.
impression about this. Okay, let me just respond to that. Okay, so because the blockade seems to be working very effectively, so why even stop the ceasefire, given that the blockade is doing something that the military operations couldn't? It's a lot more effective, it's a lot cheaper, it's hurting the Islamic Republic, and it's very efficient because the military operations cost more, and at the same time it risks American lives. So the Islamic Republic is really hurting because of the blockade, and you could also see that is causing a lot of division within the Islamic Republic. You are seeing a lot of internal fighting. I think the Islamic Republic itself prefers to go back into a fight because once the military operations are happening, at least there's some unity within the regime itself, right? So we don't have unity between most of the Iranian people and the regime, but so we don't have a rally around the flag effect as many other Western media commentators suggest, but the war does cause some unity among regime supporters. So the ceasefire causes division among them, military operations causes some unity among them. So that's why the regime actually prefers fighting with the United States on the battlefield rather than with diplomacy at the negotiating table. This is not a comfortable situation for them to be at all. So when your enemy is fighting against itself, why stop it? Why not just go with it, right? Why not just continue to hurt them financially in a much more effective way that you weren't even able to achieve? I mean, President Trump even confirmed what we suspected, that the blockade is more effective than the military operations, right? So that's the answer, because it's more effective.
I did see that they're fighting against themselves. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think Jeffrey put a 2 in the chat, so Jeffrey wants to add some commentary on this as well. So go ahead, Jeffrey. Oh, we don't have audio from you, Jeffrey. Audio issues from Jeffrey? Is it just me, or is it you guys can't hear him as well?
Nothing either.
I can't hear him.
Okay. You gotta fix that and come back. Anybody else had any opinions regarding the ceasefire? Because I think this is a good time to also talk about Scott Besson's tweet, the post that he had. I did really want to hear what Jeffrey has to say about this, so hopefully you could fix the audio fast. All right. So
Can you hear me?
I want to put a 2 in the chat if you want to speak. But I'm going to ask Ali. Ali, what do you think about the strategy, the indefinite? By the way, we also saw Axios coming out and saying that it's not indefinite, that President Trump is giving them 3 to 5 days. So we also have to keep that in mind. But Ali, go ahead. What's your views?
Yeah, I think, as I said yesterday, it's like right when it came out, obviously it's just way more effective. It costs less in every positive way. It's more worthwhile to do the blockade. What I did find interesting was that I said, hey, if I was Vahidi, I'm going to put the other guys under house arrest. And then like 2 minutes later, we see like these unconfirmed rumors that they were put under house arrest. So I think what is probably going to happen from the IRG side is that they're going to have to eventually consolidate and have to be able to give some sort of unified response. Even if they're not going to surrender or give up the uranium or whatever, they're going to have to band together at one point or another. And it seems like Vahidi has the upper hand because he has all the guns. From the US and Israeli side, obviously we're going to start focusing more on the people in like the coming months. As Jeffrey said, maybe like, some sort of like material aid can also be provided, but that also has its own difficulties. But it's just a matter of weeks before they get even more desperate. I think right now they're trying, like, we repeatedly see them try to be all strong. Hey, we're not gonna give up to your demands. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And every single card is being taken away from their hand as time goes on. So I'm waiting to see. At this point, is the next card going to be the militias abandoning them because they just can't pay them? Reals are worthless. They want to be paid in USD because if they leave Iran, they want to be able to use it. We already know that the regime's sanctioned and all that. So economic fury at this point is doing way more damage than epic fury could be doing. So why not just stay the course? And that's exactly what Senator Lindsey Graham's been saying. He just released his tweet. It's what all these like Fox News and all other analysts have been catching up and saying. It's stuff that we've been saying for like a ton. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, the discussion group is roughly a week ahead on whatever news that comes out. The streams that you guys see, Goldie and Armin, are always like days, if not weeks ahead of everything that comes out. At this point, I'm like scrambling my brain. I'm trying to find out what can the regime do, and it's not much. It's really not much anymore. I think they just wait it out and adopt their original strategy. Their day one strategy was, hey, we're just going to wait it out, see if we can wait it out, and we're seeing how that's working out for them. So
my concern is that let me try to play devil's advocate and find ways for the Islamic Republic to survive and see how possible this is, right? My concern is that what if it takes very, very little money and resources to do three things, right? To shoot at the Iranian people if they want to do an uprising, and get some speedboats with some people on it with guns to shoot at commercial ships trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz, and then have certain soldiers with guns to shoot at anybody who wants to come and take out the enriched uranium. Okay? Like, what if it takes very little effort, very little manpower, and very, very little money to just do these three things indefinitely? How would you respond to that?
I think at this point, you're right. It doesn't take much. Like, even if 50% of those militia forces stay, that's probably enough to kill enough people for the people to come out, get shot at, then go back in and not come back out, which is the worst case scenario, right? So I think you were talking about it. The regime supporters themselves have this like psychological issue that the militias don't when they want to kill people. As for running their just general day-to-day operations, I think that's what we're targeting more than like the military funding, because like it doesn't take much for the speedboats to lay mines, enforce, shoot, militias, whatever. But it does take a lot for them to keep their day-to-day operations going. So if the regime supporters suddenly, who are used to these very lavish lives, lose all of their wealth and they become poor, I think that's going to be a greater issue for them than the the military aspect of it. That's just what I think.
Yeah, but let's say, for example, 95% of the armed forces of the regime will be like, where's my money? I'm not going to work for you if you don't pay me, right? But what if we have 5% of the regime forces who are like, I will die for Islam and for my supreme leader and the Durka jihadi stuff, right? I don't need to get paid. I'm not doing this for money, right? I'm doing this because I believe in this stuff. And what if that 5% is enough? That's what I'm worried about.
That's already taken into account. I'm 100% confident in this, that's already taken into account into their plans. That 5%, one way or another, was going to have to be eliminated, whether we win or this drags out. They were always going to have to go, and that the way I'm imagining that is like we come out, and then those Israeli drones come in from above, hit the checkpoints, hit the machine guns, stuff like that, arm some of the people, give them weapons. Yeah, but you already knew that they're going to have to either way.
Yeah, I think the solution to that at some point again is, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, is to arm the Iranian people to fight that remaining 5%, because I do think that remaining 5% will always be there and will always be an issue. And before we get an army of ourselves, like before we become a free country that has an army that could, because these people, this 5% that I'm talking about, they're going to continue being an issue even after Iran is liberated. They're going to be our Hamas. They're going to be like the Hamas is to Israel. That's what they're going to be to us, right? So we have to deal with them eventually when we have our own army. But in this, this transition period, I think the Iranian people, without even us having our army back, should just be armed so that they could basically, I mean, that's actually what happened in Israel, right? Israel, before we had Israel, the Jews were arming themselves to fight against the Arabs even before Israel became a country. So I think that we have to eventually go through the same period. So I think this is why I keep saying, like, arm the Iranian people. And I keep saying that that needs to be part of that needs to become more of a discussion. And I also appreciate Mark Levin, because he recently has become a huge advocate for that, for arming the Iranian people. I think Jeffrey, is your mic working now? Okay, go ahead. Yes.
You guys hear me?
Yes, fantastic.
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, technical difficulties. All good observations. I'm going to touch on some of them. So as some of you have already kind of hit on, first, strikes are not off the table. Combat power in the region is twice what it was prior to February 28th. So if President Trump gives the go-ahead to Pete Hegseth and Pete goes full bore, the regime remnants is going to experience something that even the previous ass whooping doesn't come close to. That being said, the operational part of the reasoning for the operational pause is in no insignificant matter due to the fact that President Trump is trying to preserve some of the infrastructure for the Iranian people so they don't have to build everything out of rubble. Mullah remnants doesn't seem like they want to allow that to happen. The economic impact is of the blockade is very much being amplified by Operation Economic Fury. You have them, currently some key lines of action are ending all oil sanctions waivers. That includes secondary sanctions on foreign banks and entities, and billionaires like operating out of Russia and Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state. They're already hitting the, how do you pronounce this? The Shamkhani? How do you say it? Like how you guys would say it? Shamkhani. Thank you. I can't do the right. Forgive me. Thank you, Arvid. The Shamkhani.
Try it. Shamkhani.
Shamkhani network. That's the best I could do at this moment.
Okay.
So they're already hitting those guys, right? So you have these multi-billion-dollar oil smuggling operations. The idea of trying to do oil for gold, we're already targeting that. Here's another key part that's going on, is that the regime is absolutely shattered. All the indicators shows that. You now have what essentially is a civil war going on inside the regime, right? So clerical, you have the civilian leadership, clerics, IRGC, all of them are vying for whatever remnants is left. Think about what happened when we took out the Ayatollah. One of the core elements, like the keystone of the Mullah regime's mythos, was this guy is the ultimate grand poobah, and we're resisting because, forgive me, I'm not weak. The IRGC is resisting because he's got it from, Allah's lips to his ears and all the rest of it. I mean, you have IRGC now just taking off the uniform and fleeing into surrounding countries. You have IRGC remnants saying that they disagree with the civilian leadership and will not take orders from him. You have the clerics that have been obliterated. They're like, you have all this intra-regime infighting going on. So that has both positives and negatives to it. This kind of ties into what Armin said. The positives is it's very hard for them to maintain continuity of mission, message, and effort throughout throughout all of Iran. It also means that, it's hard to get people to come to a deal, which is why, like, Donald's like, look, we got to get somebody to come here. Even if you do, who's to say that some crazy Turka douchebag, like, remnant says they don't really care. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. So that's, again, why two things are important of this group and what Armin and Tusi and Goldie and all this people in this room and everybody waging the battle of the narratives is two things. One is to win the battle of the narratives, to set up the political capita so that track 2 material support, sustained legal track 2 material support at the non-lesser and kinetic type can be provided to Iranian resistance so that they can finally realize liberating Iran from the Mullah regime that's occupied them since '79.
Jeffrey, I have a quick question for you, and just quickly, somebody posted a super chat on YouTube saying Trump already said he would treat the small fast boats like the drug boats in the Caribbean. Boom, boom. Last 2 nights, you all have been awesome and fun. Oh, thank you. Jeffrey, why haven't we already seen, like, why have the speedboats been not attacked? Like, we haven't seen, the videos that we saw from the Venezuelan, drug boats being blown up. Why haven't we seen anything like that right now in the Persian Gulf? But before your response, guys, I see new people here. If you want to be added to a list to speak, put a 1 in the chat. If you want to respond to what we're already talking about, put a 2 in the chat. So go ahead, Jeffrey.
We did. So the initial strikes against the Mullah regime focused on some key capabilities: strategic radar, air defense, C4SR, missile cities, WD stockpiles, leadership bunkers for IRG, besiege, Navy, right? We sank all their conventional Navy. The Mullah regime spent, we did hit a lot of their fast boats. That said, the Mullah regime invested 40 years in procuring and developing roughly about 12 to 1,500 fast attack boats. That's part of their Mosquito fleet asymmetric counter. And they put them inside these kind of hardened, I don't know, almost like a Quonset hut. So like, think of like a sewer pipe, right? That's hardened, that they park the boat inside. We hit a lot of them. I mean, they also try to hide some of them. So we're in the process of taking them out. I promise you, if once they make that run, those guys are dead. That said, it's true. The IRGC is indeed leveraging, dripping out a couple at a time. Just recently, you had 3, commercial ships attacked with fast attack boats of the Mosquito fleet via, small arms. The other issue is the IRGC remnants said they're going to target underwater cables and all the rest of it to, like, it's kind of like the cyber, it's kind of like the physical critical infrastructure version of cyber warfare to kind of cause economic or e-commerce damage to the Gulf states, or say, Amazon, all the rest of them that built their stuff there. So you can bet your Aunt Susie's ash can, because I got to be nice, otherwise Goldie will yell at me for cussing. We are maintaining a heightened level of awareness on the Strait of Hormuz, and if they try that run, you either won't get a good run, you're not gonna succeed, and if you do, it'll only be one time, because after that you're done.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jeffrey. All right, who's next?
Next to respond is Daniel Dom.
So on my impression is that there will be no uprising like we saw in January. People will not go protest on the streets, but I do believe it will be a more guerrilla fight, and they will hunt down small groups of Basiji and IRGC, all those who are looking to kill innocents in the street or go up to people's houses, and they will just start an armed resistance. And while this is happening, I believe the next logical thing is to the Americans and Israelis go strike all the economical objects that bring fast income, so that they are making the IRGC positions worse and worse and worse. And today we know that police officers and all the low ranks are not getting paid, from what I heard. So the situation with the money will be just worse and worse, while people like the good Iranians are fighting back all those militias and all those who came from Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right. So two things: for the Iranian people to fight, like a guerrilla warfare against Islamic Republic, they need to be armed, right? And they don't have enough guns. This is why I constantly say we need to start talking about arming the Iranian people. That's one. Two, I hope we get to the point where that happens at some point, right? That you're saying. But even if that happens, it doesn't mean that we're not going to see an uprising like we saw early January. The only thing is that that will be the last phase. Like that should be the final push. That shouldn't be, given that what we saw early January and the level of massacre that the Islamic Republic is capable of doing. I think we should not do that again until we know that we're not going to pay such a heavy price ever for it again. So, but I know that if the Islamic Republic is going to fall, that will happen one more time, and it's going to be so much bigger than what we saw in early January. The only difference is that it has to be done once everything else has been done. Once the Islamic Republic has been disarmed. I mean, at the end of the day, if we get to the final phase, it's only natural for the Iranian people to come out. Like, if we, at some point, when you get to the point where, like, let's say you have done all the phases, military operations by United States and Israel, the blockade on the Iranian ports, the destruction of the killing of so many other regime officials and checkpoints and whoever is basically killing the Iranian people. Let's say we have all of that by the Americans and Israelis. And let's say we also go through a phase of the Iranian people getting armed and fighting against the regimes in guerrilla warfare as well. Okay. Let's say we go through all of these steps. What is the end of all of this? We are going to get to a position where at some point we're saying the regime has been defeated to the point where they can't suppress the Iranian people. As soon as the Iranian people realize that we're at that point, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to come into the streets, right? They're going to come into the streets and they're going to fill the streets. I mean, if they came into the streets when the regime was still in power in the millions, what do you think is going to happen when they realize that the regime is not able to defend itself anymore? Of course, they're going to come into the streets. But the only difference is that we don't want to use that tactic as an intermediary tactic. We want to use that as a final push. It needs to be the final push. It cannot be one of the strategies that we have in the middle, because they're unarmed and they cannot defend themselves. Only after we've done everything else, that will be the final push that will be done by the Iranian people. Does that make sense?
Yes, and also I think one good indication will be when we are when we are getting to the end of it, is when all the European nations such as Spain, France, Great Britain, and etc. will actually speak openly about all the massacre, speak openly about that the Iranians hate this regime, that this regime has no popularity in Iran. And when we will hear that stuff are coming more and more, I believe this will be an indication that stuff are going really well in this war.
Yeah, because you're right, because the Europeans will only support the Iranian people when they think the Iranian people are about to win. If they think the Islamic Republic has any chance for survival, they would be holding back to some extent. This is actually let me say something very interesting, okay? Because the world looks at Europe as if they stand for human rights, and they look at United States and Israel as if they violate human rights. But you can see that in the greatest massacre of our modern history, it was the Europeans, it was the European leaders who betrayed the Iranian people when they were being oppressed, and it was the Americans and Israelis who came to their aid. So all of this talk of human rights it was all fake. It was all virtue signaling. The very two countries that constantly get accused of violating human rights, those were the countries that came to the aid of the Iranian people when they needed them. All right, who's next?
Next we have Cat Lady.
Cat Lady, are you with us? Oh, I think she's not here anymore.
Okay, we'll come back to her if she comes back. Sketch, you're next.
Yes. If we're talking about steps to come, right? I'm thinking about money, because money and factions are a thing, right? So what happens when you have to choose who you have to pay? You have two militaries. Which one are you going to pay? More than likely, they're going to pay our IRGC, and Artesh is not going to get that money. How does that change the equation onto who will they side with? What about the merchants? The merchants aren't going to get any relief. They are the ones that started this whole thing, right? How many factions, how many people in government are going to start to see their pay cut, even though they've already under an enormous strain, which is what started this whole thing? So how much this economic angle is very important, but it also affects, I think, the factions. I think you spoke and showed us videos of Artesh people and commanders and people that say, like, we want to quit, we want to defect. I think that would increase. So that's another step that we would see before, like, the streets going crazy. We would see larger defections or larger rumblings of people not getting paid, people with guns not getting paid. I don't know if I'm right about this. This is just an inference I'm making. I welcome everyone to comment on it.
So you're right that I also suspect that people's payments are going to get cut. I think the armed forces are the last to get cut. Right? Like they're going to basically, the Islamic Republic, if they run out of money, they're going to cut other people's pay in order to be able to pay the armed forces. So the last one to go, because they know their survival depends on the armed forces, right? And also they're going to be printing like there's no tomorrow. Like they already are printing like there's no tomorrow, but they're going to increase that, printing money. And basically that's another way of taking money from the people. When you print more money and you cause more inflation, you're taking the wealth of people who have money, like already have some money, and you're making their money being worth less and increasing the money that is you're holding on to because you have access to the printers, right? So that's also a form of, like, printing more money is also a form of theft from the Iranian people. But they're going to harm everybody, and they're going to try to keep the people with guns happy. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I think if they had to pick, would they cut both of their pay, or would they keep Artesh down and IRGC up?
Oh yeah, no, they don't give a crap about the Artesh. You're right. They will keep IRGC, and in fact, not only that, they have been cutting Artesh's budget and increasing IRGC's budget for years now, right? So this is just going to be a continuation.
Did they cut medical aid to Artesh? I heard something about that. They wouldn't send medical aid to Artesh.
I did not hear that, so I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised though. I just want to. By the way, I just want to read something. This needs to be confirmed, but Sohail just sent me a post, and he wanted me to read this. Since the start of the war, the number of Iranians executed by the Islamic Republic is greater than the number of Israeli soldiers killed. So the Islamic Republic has, oh yeah, actually that is true. Like I know that should be true actually. So the Islamic Republic has managed to kill more Iranians than Israelis in this war. Easily. Yeah, you're right. Jeffrey is saying easily in the chat. Yes. Which is another demonstration that the Islamic Republic is at war with the Iranian people more than it's at war with anything else. Yeah.
All right, Cat Lady's back.
Cat Lady.
Yes, I hope I'm not kicked out this time. And the only people who killed IDF soldiers, I think, are Hezbollah, but that's not my point. I have a question, but it depends on an assumption that maybe is wrong. So say the assumption first. And I remember, if I'm not wrong, that a couple of months ago, you were very much against arming the Iranian people. Am I right or not?
Yeah, that was not the right time because, yeah.
No. Now I'll ask my question. But what changed your mind Why did you think that before? What's now? And like explain the whole thing if you can.
Right. Because for the reason why it was not the right time to arm the Iranian people is because we haven't gone through the phases. Like we have to do the other steps before we get to the steps that we could say this, right? So we needed to see what the uprising would do. We needed to see then what the American and Israeli operations would do, and then we need to go through those phases and then get to the point where we could see if arming the Iranian people was necessary or not. Prematurely doing that could have gotten us to a situation where we might have guessed that maybe the Americans and Israeli, maybe the uprising, an unarmed uprising, would have been enough, and we ruined it by arming the Iranian people. And then the unarmed uprising not doing the job, if we then armed the Iranian people, then we could have gotten into a situation where people could have evaluated that an American and Israeli attack would have been enough, but by arming the Iranian people, we have ruined that. But now that we are at this phase, I think it's safe to say that it's time to arm the Iranian people. And also, when another understanding was that maybe the Israeli drones would have been involved in trying to cause the Islamic Republic to be toppled by using the drones to take out the suppressors, the armed forces of the Islamic Republic. And because the armed forces of the Islamic Republic at checkpoints and other places, many of them are plainclothes people and they're not wearing uniform, the only way to basically if that was the strategy, and I suspect that was the strategy until the Americans decided to go a different route and something switched at some point during this military operation. But I think the strategies that Israelis had at some point was to continue to using their drones to take out checkpoints and take out Basijis and IRGC members to get to a point where the Iranian people could do an uprising. That was what they were going with until the strategy switched. And if at that point, if you had armed the Iranian people, then it would be very difficult for that operation to continue, because there's no way for you to decide to figure out who's IRGC, who's Basiji, and who is a freedom fighter. Also, the only way for another concern that exists when it comes to arming the Iranian people is how do you give them guns without making sure that doesn't reach to IRGC first, because IRGC has control over everywhere in Iran. So if you just drop weapons into Iran, what you're doing is that you're probably actually giving weapons to the IRGC instead of to the people who actually you're supposed to be giving it to. So one reason why it's now possible to talk about the arming the Iranian people is because with the military operations in the Persian Gulf, there is a way for you to liberate a certain area, like a city close to the Strait of Hormuz, like Bandar Abbas, and turn that into a base of operations where you, 1, vet people, 2, train people, and then 3, then only after that you arm people with not just guns but also drones. But the vetting process is a very important process, so that you make sure that you're not arming the wrong people. That's why now we're in a situation where we could actually seriously talk about arming the Iranian people. Does that make sense?
And can I ask another question, or should I wait for later? Because it's not a response, it's a question. I'll wait. You know what? I'll wait.
Okay.
Put in the list.
Yeah, okay. Because I saw some new people here that are on the list, and I just want to make sure that we get to them as well. I think Ian has been waiting for a long time, but we could go back to your next question soon. And thank you.
Right,
that was a good question, by the way. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
We have 3 more responses. Did you want to go through those, or should we go onto the list?
Can we go to the list, because so many people have been waiting, and we could come back to this because there are so many people who have waited for they wanted to introduce their topic, if that's okay. We could come back to the responses at some point. Yeah.
John Stuart Mill, you're up.
Yeah. So my question is about the why is it that certain politicians, certain nations get the answers wrong? And I tend to think it's because of their ability to gauge the crowd, wisdom of the crowd.
Wait, your audio got your audio got muffly for a second. I didn't understand the second part. Go on. One more time. Hello? John Stuart Mill?
Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Hello. So regarding why is it that certain nations like Europeans, they get the answers kind of incorrect about like standing with the Iranian people, or certain other nations, you know, I believe the four factors: independence, diversity, opinions, just the crowd of wisdom of these nations or these like regions seem to not be clicking in the way that the Israeli crowd of wisdom of their crowd or the American wisdom of their crowds clicks. And if that's the case, that they're getting these answers like Spain, why are they so like, you know, so is it because, and then in response, we have Iran, for example, where, you know, you could argue that over the years, there wasn't a kind of decentralization, at least opinions were, you know, a lot of times without, I mean, thanks to internet, YouTube, probably that changed, but it was a pretty closed-off society, yet the wisdom of the crowd seems to be really high. Is that part of the answer why these nations get their answers wrong? The kind of the elites in these societies, they kind of are not able to understand or gauge or calculate where their crowds stand, or even if they would be able to gauge it, they wouldn't really care because, hey, we're the elite, we know best. And if that's the case, then how come we have the opposite in Iran, where people didn't really have all of this, but they seem to have such a wisdom?
You know, I don't think they're miscalculating. I just think that they have different interests. I think based on their interests, they might be actually calculating things correctly, right? So for example, European politicians, they look at their voter base and the values that their voter base has, and they have imported a whole bunch of, I don't know, Muslims, and they also have a higher percentage of leftist progressives, who think that, you know, who are anti-Israeli, anti-Western, so-called Western imperialism, and they think whoever is poorer, they must be on the right side of history. So the politicians, at least, they look at that and they want to get reelected, right? So they're basically appealing to what the voter base wants, right? So that's one. Also, they're very conservative. Like, I know they are supposed to. They're conservative, not in the sense of like conservative versus progressive. They're conservative in the sense of they don't want to bet on the Islamic Republic falling. So they think that we have to. They're thinking about their energy sources, and they want to. The whole human rights thing is just virtue signaling nonsense, and they care more about energy than they care about human rights. And if they think that the Islamic Republic might be able to continue, they're not sure if it's going to be toppled or not. So they don't want to ruin the relationship completely with the Islamic Republic because it's an energy source for them. They think like the United States has the luxury of having a lot of oil and gas, and we don't have. Europe is not that lucky. Europe is very energy dependent. Europe and China are very energy dependent, unlike United States and Russia. Europe and China rely on other places for energy. I mean, China is getting better with like alternative sources, but still they're not very like. But Europe needs these countries for its energy security. So like, why risk our relationship with the Islamic Republic in case they survive this, and then we're screwed because, you know, now they consider us as enemy. They don't want to be. They try to avoid becoming the enemy of the Islamic Republic because they are like, you know, they need them, right? And there's another concern that they have. They have this mass migration concern. They think that if the Islamic Republic falls, they think that the mass migration that we saw out of Syria coming to Europe, they think that they might experience that again. So they're also concerned about that. And also they think that, you know what, if you think about it, a free, secular, liberal Iran is not going to hold a grudge against the Europeans and be like, we're not going to sell oil and gas to you because you didn't support us, to support the Iranian people against the Islamic Republic, right? That is probably a country that is going to try to maintain good relationship with everyone, right? That's what that is what probably a future Iran is going to be. So you think like if you're Europe, you're like, well, if the Islamic Republic stays, then look at either the Islamic Republic will survive this or it won't. If it doesn't, and we get to a free, secular, liberal Iran, well, we're gonna have a good relationship with them anyways, because they're probably are not going to hold a grudge, and they're going to be type of people that want to have a positive relationship with everybody, right? So we might as well not go against the Islamic Republic, because we're not going to lose our relationship with this market, with this energy market, if the Islamic Republic falls. However, if the Islamic Republic survives, then we will get a lot of it will cost us a lot for us turning him into an enemy, and so it would be safer for us to just appease them and not go against them all the way, right? So if you look at the game theory, if you look at the decision making tree here, then it makes sense for them, for if your priority is energy, access to energy, and not human rights, then what the Europeans are doing here would make sense. You have to look at their priorities rather than assuming that maybe they're being retired. It's just the priorities are different. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I just to talk about the Iranian people and how come they're so wise. I just wanted your.
It's from experience. Okay, so the Iranian people are not inherently, better than people around the world. Okay, I don't believe that. I know some people might get offended by that. I think the Iranian people understand the values of the correct value they understand the worth of the values that make societies better, because they don't have it, because they can see what happens when you don't have it. It's because of experience, right? It's not like, so for example, in America right now, there is less appreciation for free speech than in Iran. Is it because the Iranian people are wiser and they understand the value of free speech more than the American people? No. The Iranian people understand the value of free speech more than the Americans, because they don't have free speech, and the American people have free speech. You understand the value of water more when you're thirsty, when you don't have water, right? And that's why the Iranian people understand the value of these methods and these ideals, because they experienced 47 years of going without it, and also because they had it at some point.
But
right?
Do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. Because I was gonna say North Korea. Probably the people don't appreciate it because they never had.
Yes, because in some countries they never got to see what it's like to have so the Iranian people are in an interesting situation of having a better life, losing it, and remembering what it was like when they had that, right? So in some other societies like North Korea, or I don't know, maybe Turkmenistan.
Russia.
Yeah.
Russia is very important.
Whatever. Okay. Let me finish. But if you just went through never having that, then you still, even if you don't have it. So, for example, if you had access to a lot of water all your life and now you don't, then you're really thirsty for water. But if you have experienced thirst all your life and you never knew what it's like to have access to unlimited water, then even though you're thirsty right now, you still don't understand the value of water. So the Iranian people are in a situation where they experienced it, it was taken away from them, and now they want it back. And that experience makes them more understanding of how important these values are. Right?
Actually. Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for that. Great questions. Who's next?
Ian, you're next.
Ian.
Hey guys, thanks. How's my audio?
Great audio.
Okay. So my question is basically around how do we remind the people that the Iranian people are a force on this international chessboard that opposes the IRGC? And I think it comes from Petito said in his statement, the Iranian people and their king are moving to the absolute top of the battlefield. And if you tune into Fox or something like that, you will think that the chessboard is Trump and Netanyahu and Hezbollah and the Strait of Hormuz and Ghalibaf. And so they're still outside of the narrative, unfortunately. And I've been trying to brainstorm ways to kind of push the idea that they are this major force that needs to be reckoned with. So that's my question. And I also had another smaller question about the Kurdish, the guns supplied to the Kurdish separatists, but we may or may not be able to get to that.
Actually, they will be related. So let me answer your first question, and let's then get to the second question. Okay. So why is it so easy to ignore the Iranian people when we're talking about what's happening in Iran right now? Okay. So what is it? Here's the question, Ian. I think let me know if you could guess the answer to this question. Okay. What is it that the Americans, the Israelis, the IRGC, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the proxies like the Hashd al-Shabi, Zainabiyun, Fatimiyun, what is it that all of these people have that the Iranian people don't have? Because that's probably the answer, right?
Yes, the internet, yeah.
No. It's not the internet, because it was something else. I mean, the internet.
Weapons,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, I mean, you're right. It's also the internet. You're right. But it's weapons. It's weapons. Right?
Right.
So that is the difference. And that's why I'm saying we should arm the Iranian people. If the Iranian people want to be taken to become a more important part of this narrative, they should be armed. What do you think?
That leads like directly into my second question, which was essentially ever since that story came out about where Trump told the media that he had supplied weapons to the Kurdish separatists in Iraq, and they didn't get them to into Iran. And I've had a squinted eyes since that story came out, because that would have been a classified operation, and Trump doesn't talk about his failures. So how do we know about that story? And I don't want to dwell too hard on it, but ever since that story came out, I was like, that must have been 3 moves back. By the time we know about it, it must be 3 moves back. And so I think that it's possible that this operation to arm people is already occurring. I also spoke to someone in the Iranian diaspora who told me, oh yeah, the Mossad has this all figured out, and all of this stuff it's all planned out, which I took with a big grain of salt. But it makes me really, really wonder whether, this piece that, we're talking about is sort of already in play. But it'd be going back to my first question. It's sort of, are there ways that we can sort of show the world that that's actually what's happening? And I thought Petito's speech is a good example, where the gist of the speech is, we are the player, like I'm the captain now, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very good speech, but the thing is that there's a claim, and we have to make that claim, but then we also have to give empirical evidence that people could see. And again, that's why I say we should arm the Iranian people, because people would believe you once you demonstrate that you are the captain, right? So we have to first make the claim that we are in control, and that's what Patipto was saying in that video. That's the first part, but the second part is to demonstrate that, right? That you are in the driver's seat. So when it comes to the points that you've made, you're right. Actually, I didn't think about this, that it might already be occurring. Like, we don't know, because you're right. Like, when President Trump said that if we tried to do that and it failed, that was like, the understanding is that he was doing that right when he said help is on the way, like right when that's what they were doing, like way before he actually came out and admitted that plan failed. So you're right that this might already be happening as we're speaking. But when it comes to President Trump not talking about failures, I've actually seen. First of all, he didn't sell this as a like he didn't talk about this as a failure, because if you remember, he specifically said, I was against it, right? So he suggested that this is some other people's failure within the administration, and I was advising against it, and it proved, and he said it was proved that I was right. But I have seen him mention a couple of times that, oh, I was wrong about this, I was surprised about this, or I thought this would work, but then I realized, like, no. So it's interesting because President Trump talks about his wins so much that we assume that he never talks about his losses or his mistakes. But I specifically remember a couple of times him admitting getting certain things wrong, and every time I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like this is like not in his. I felt like, oh, like this is actually a surprise. Like I actually get pleasantly surprised whenever he admits that he thought something and then he realized that something would not work. Or so yeah, but go on.
Can I ask about something else that's related? So there have been sporadically, we've seen videos of insurgents taking the lives of people at checkpoints, and there was also a story that I think came out of the state TV that showed like a weapons cache that had been seized. But if you looked closely at the image of the weapons they seized, it was like a round of every caliber. So it didn't look like any like specific weapons that a team would use. So I would ask Jeffrey about that. Did you see that image that the Iranian state TV put out? And also, where are the weapons coming from that you see in those insurgent operations?
Yeah. So before Jeffrey responds, because Jeffrey is already on the responses, so we'll get to it. But I just want to clarify something. It's not like there's no guns in Iran. Like it's hard to get access to enough guns to be able to do something like this. But like especially close to the border areas, there are people with guns. There people do have guns. So there are, like, it's not like it's completely, people have access to zero guns. Okay, but let's get Jeffrey on this, because Jeffrey has a lot more information on this. Go on, Jeffrey.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of good points, and I mean, some were liberated from police stations in the beginning part of the most recent uprising by Iranian resistance. So I'm going to touch on some of the comments, because a lot of this is we're in that stage. As Armin said, we had to set up the interstate and the operational environment within Iran where track-to material support had a good chance of success. If we had attempted to deliver track-to material support en masse prior to setting up that operational environment, it would have been especially hard, particularly if you have to drop them above the range of, say, man-pad portable, shoulder-mounted surface-to-air missiles. You'd have them dispersed everywhere. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Additionally, at the time that Armin is referencing, he's not wrong when he's talking about how it would have confused targeting, right? It would have confused. Here's kind of the issues that would have happened if it happened at the time that Armin is referencing, which is why Armin's right that it's good that it didn't happen at that time. You'd have had like an increased risk of blue-on-blue force engagement, meaning good guys shooting good guys because they can't identify who's good guy and who's a bad guy. Targeting ambiguity when it came to things like Israeli and IDF drones. You'd have had civilian liability of people doing that, because if you don't set up all these different kinds of rules and there's all kinds of things you got to follow, there's that issue. And it would have provided an opportunity for the regime remnants for them to push all kinds of crazy narratives. It does succeed, and this is why we're at that point or very close to it, is when track-to material support for irregular fighters are authorized by a sovereign state, are integrated into an overall strategic doctrine, which is part and parcel of what Armin and a lot of us have been talking about, protected by ISR dominance and sanctuary. That's why Armin talks about a particular part in southern Iran. It's legally structured under export and security regimes, because you don't want to violate any laws. Otherwise, that opens up a whole host of nonsense there. And it's coordinated with diplomatic and information operations so that the adversary can't twist it around and say, oh, look, see, all of this was a coup by, the United States and Mossad and all this other horse shit. That would actually be very much disadvantageous to the bravery of Iranian people. To give you an understanding of what like that entails, like just to field a company of unconventional fighters, you're talking about, so track like TA-50 and enough stuff for them to have like a forward operating base so that they can maintain operations. You're talking about $1 million, right, just for the stuff. 5,200 pounds, about 3,500 like cubic feet. That's about 50 to 70 pallets, or a C-17. That's not even getting into things like insurance, fuel, crew, like permits, all this rigging, drop fees, and all this other shit. The other issue is precision drops are almost impossible. You're talking about like dispersing things over a 3-kilometer, area. So there's a reason we had to carry out the operations we did, so that we could get to a point where track 2 material support had a good chance at success. The other point that, Armin brought up is and this is very valid, is training and vetting, right? So training irregular fighters, if you're going to use historical examples, like the Contras were trained by Green Berets and people out of the School of Americas for about 4 months. That's like bare minimum. And more recently, like things Ukrainian special forces, which those are some of the people that did have Iran's back, like Central and Eastern Europe definitely backed up Iranian resistance. Western Europeans, Armin's very right, the leaders of that fucked over Iranians, not the people there. In any case, you're talking about 6 months, and you have to vet them to make sure that you're not arming the wrong people. Donald wasn't against arming Iranians. He was against arming the Kurdish separatists and the MEK. And he was against doing that at that particular point, like pushing that in at that point, because we had not gotten to the stage where we are now, where those kinds of efforts, the track 2 material support efforts, would have a good chance of success. And finally, for Sketch's idea of money, well, that's the reason why it's very important in Ukraine, like President Zelensky started that, is recognizing His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government as an official government in exile, and tie that to our efforts of grabbing like Mullah regime dark sea fleet oil tankers and then buying that from His Highness Reza Pahlavi for the market. That kills 2 birds with 1 stone. It lowers the supply chain. Well, 3 birds. It denies the Mullah regime money. It lowers the oil shock for, to get us past where the sanctions were. And it provides the government exile the resources needed to sustain those kinds of operations indefinitely. So like all very valid points. I just wanted to touch on that, Armin, because you actually mentioned a lot of key, very good points. And, just so I know people are frustrated, just need to know exactly like how that sausage is made, or at least have a little bit of an idea.
All right, thank you. Who's next?
Next we have an anonymous question, which is for Jeffrey. Is it true that the propellants for the missiles or rockets were seized?
I guess they're talking about the solid fuel propellants that the Chinese Communist Party provided to the Mullah remnant, the Mullah regime and regime remnants.
Probably.
So we destroyed a lot of that. That was actually one of the reasons, one of the key indicators of why we struck the Mullah regime in February 28, right? Because like solid fuel ballistic missiles can be stored ready to go, and they give you no warning time, which allows the Mullah regime to launch en masse against U.S. bases, our allies' bases, Israel and Gulf states, and that would have created an unacceptable escalatory spiral, which is why we had to do what we had to do. We are definitely striking those areas. I mean, that's one of the things that, President Trump even mentioned today. Like, we've obliterated even the things that they use to build stuff. That's one of the things we targeted. Albeit, can I say we got 100%? Did we get a large portion of it? Yeah, like no doubt about it. Some of those underground missile facilities, when we collapsed the tunnels and actually ignited some of the secondary stuff in there, actually the whole friggin' mountain burned from within, and you could actually see the increased thermal signature from space, which means all the IRGC douchebags there got turned into, like, it became their tomb essentially.
They're also saying, how do you get rid of the new stuff?
There's a reason that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said in no uncertain terms that, in the past couple of press briefings, we know who you are, we know where you're digging things out, we know where you're moving things. It's also one of the reasons why we said, well, we're thinking about targeting bridges and that kind of thing to sit there and stop the Mullah remnants, to move things around, to continue to try and, like, toothless pickle-eating hobo, put together a couple of missiles just to keep being a bite in the ass. I mean, Ali kind of touched on this, like why we were looking to target those bridges, remember? I mean, as far as that, it's also, so this is also the reason why the blockade is so important, because one of the main points of ingress for patron states of the Mullah regime or regime remnants is to try and, send things through the Strait of Hormuz and, like, put their, like, spoof different transponders and fly different flags and all this other stupid shit to provide the Mullah regime, restricted dual purpose stuff, including things like, what is it? Like, well, they're like essentially huge 27-foot tall mixers, or the chemicals you need for solid fuel propellant, or pick whatever. So that's kind of like some of the efforts we're doing. It's not 100%, to be sure. I mean, nothing's 100%. Some of the land routes, maybe through some other areas I can't talk about. You have to maintain, I guess the answer would be, you have to maintain a continuous eyes on the environment. And then when you identify, what is it, the bad guys trying to send stuff in, you destroy that when it's sent in, or you watch where it goes so you can then flesh out their networks and then hit that place. So you get both the people that were, transporting it and the people that were going to use it.
So
thank you,
guys. I forgot to mention that I have to today. I can't stay 2 hours. I can only stay an hour and a half because I have to go to OAN regarding what's happening in Iran. So I have 30 more minutes. And again, for people who are new here, once I leave, the conversation does not stop. You guys could continue the conversation here without me, and there will be no more time limits after I leave. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to say no to responses then so we can get through the list. Next is Richard.
Richard, is he here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. So I had a couple of questions basically related to the economic blockade situation. The first is just a general one. Do you attach any credibility to the regime's claims that their shadow fleets have been essentially making end runs around the blockade?
Well, wasn't that denied by CENTCOM? Because I heard it was denied by
It
CENTCOM.
was.
Okay, so
It was, but it wouldn't be unusual. Yeah, sorry.
No, you go ahead first.
Go ahead. I said if there was some mistake made, it wouldn't be extremely unusual for CENTCOM to issue a public denial of the claims, despite there being some credibility to them.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible, but if we have to basically go between what CENTCOM is saying and what the Islamic Republic is saying, I think it's more likely that CENTCOM is correct, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the regime has a strong incentive to lie about it, to basically, label the strategy as ineffective and turn the public against the war. So take it with a huge grain of salt.
Actually, you're right that there's credibility and there's incentives. You're right. Okay, so credibility, the Islamic Republic has zero credibility and CENTCOM has a lot of credibility. Incentives, the Islamic Republic is very motivated to suggest that they're not hurting, to save face, and CENTCOM has no motivation to lie because they have their credibility to be concerned about. So there you go, right?
And absolutely. Historically, 100% of the time that the regime has an incentive to lie or has something to gain by lying, they will lie.
Yeah.
So this would be the only time that didn't happen.
Yeah, true.
And the next question is just on the militias. So I know they're obviously deeply varied in terms of their effectiveness, the ones that have come in, the Iraqi ones being the most problematic. But do you think that there are any militias possibly including Hester Shebby and the more problematic ones that are really not as motivated economically, more motivated ideologically, and that they will stay even if they're not being paid.
Not that many. Not that much. I mean, so for example, if you look at the die-hard regime supporters within Iran, right? You see, for years we have watched them say like they will die for Khamenei, they will do everything for Khamenei. There's so much propaganda. There's so much. You don't see that. I mean, in Iraq, I've seen them like put up banners of Khamenei, praising Khamenei, but like when it comes to propaganda wise, their loyalty is just by like. I mean, maybe it's my ignorance because I haven't been exposed to the propaganda inside Iraq as much as I've been to the propaganda inside Iran. But I'm pretty sure over the years, every time we see something pro Khamenei inside Iraq, it gets brought into Iranian social media as like, look at these retards. They're not even Iranians and they're celebrating Khamenei. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? At least they have occupied our land. But why are you like? Well, you're in Iraq. You're not even Iran. You can't even speak Persian, and you're celebrating Khamenei. Like you're a special kind of retard, right? Like when we say Pakistani Shia celebrating Khamenei or Afghanistan Shia groups celebrating Pakistan, celebrating, for example, Khamenei. Like Iranian people who are anti-regime, they look at those videos, are like, okay, the Iranians who support Khamenei, they're retarded, but you're on a different level. Like Khamenei isn't even the leader in your country and you're supporting him, right? So I know that we've seen the pro-Khamenei propaganda from these other countries because we share them on our social media whenever it happens. And even though they exist, they're not at the same level of the propaganda pro-Khamenei that has been created by pro-regime Iranians for pro-regime Iranians, right? And given that they haven't been as exposed to it, I think that their loyalty is ideologically motivated, but it's conditional. I think it's mostly conditional on getting paid. That's my suspicion. I might be wrong about this, but what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But when I talk about ideological sympathies outweighing economic ones, I'm primarily talking about ideological sympathies more for Islam than for the regime. The example being, of course, after Saddam fell in Iraq, the Islamic militias were a much larger problem even after support for Saddam had basically eroded amongst the more secular community.
Right, but it's true. But you have to think that supporting the regime is supporting Islam for you to be ideologically motivated. So these people ideologically do support the Islamic Republic, right? But for you to continue to do that, risking your lives, even if you're not getting paid, then you have to think that by supporting the Islamic Republic, you are supporting Islam, that they are the same thing. And you have to be a special kind of pro-regime person to see that, to consider that to be the same thing, right? So, for example, in Iran, we see so many regime supporters who think that betraying the Islamic Republic is betraying Islam as a whole, right? And there's not that many people who think like that, even if they believe in Ali Khamenei, even if they believe in Shia Islam, even if they believe in the guardianship of the jurists. It's a spectrum, right? They don't think that, you know, the pro-regime people, the ones who are really high level, like Durka, like they're on the other end of the Durka scale, they think that this is it. This is the IRGC is the army of the Mahdi. Like the whole point of Islam was to get to the end of times with the Mahdi, like all of it, the creation of the universe, the bringing of all the prophets, all the way from Adam, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, all of the imams throughout history, and the bringing of the Islamic Republic. All of that, everything has been for the point, like every single atom in the world, every single breath that every single living being makes everywhere in the world is all for the point of the arrival of Mahdi and for him to eventually take over the world, and the Islamic Republic is his army. The Iran is the base of his operations, and the IRGC is his army. So betraying the IRGC, betraying the supreme leader in Iran, is not just a crime against Islam, it's a crime against everything that exists. It's a crime against God's plan. It's basically going against, you're not just going against Islam, you're going against the fabric of the universe. You're going against God himself. You're going against the point of existence. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great, excellent explanation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, I'm next, and I just wanted to share 3 quick things. I think it's this one, hopefully. Okay, yeah, it's this one. All right, so we got satellite imagery today of the Strait of Hormuz, and these are the regime's fast attack speedboats. So about 30 odd of them crossed the strait. A lot of people think that they were laying mines. I don't know if I'm not too convinced on that. In fact, I think that the minefield is not real. I don't think they actually laid mines. And so this YouTuber, Max Afterburner, who we've talked about sometimes, actually went on Google Earth Pro and made this map of all the ships here with little boom icons that have been aimed at or hit. And this little red box is where the suspected minefield is. So you can see every time a ship that tried to cross through the suspected minefield, they were aimed at or hit, which makes me think that none of them were hit by mines, even though they tried to cross there. And so the minefield probably isn't there. Now, we did see those speedboats go through this entire strait today. Maybe they did line mines, maybe not. I don't really see why they would, because it's honestly more harmful than it is helpful at this point, but they are crazy, and so anything can happen. Lastly, we have this clip from Caroline Levitt about the deadline of the ceasefire.
Wait, we don't have audio. Did you share the audio?
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Try again.
Why is it like that?
Oh, still no audio. Weird.
All right, maybe I'll just put the link in the chat. But essentially, she directly said that there is no time limit. So a 3 to 5 day time limit that they were talking about is actually false. She explicitly says that. So the ceasefire is indefinite until we decide otherwise, pretty much. And lastly, the Senate. Yeah, I can send it to you. The Senate has been convening since 10 a.m. and the Democrats are big mad, very, very big mad, and they're just trying to get this vote passed to stop the war, which is supposedly going to happen in a few hours. So we'll see what happens with that.
Wait, let me see if I share it, if you guys will get the audio. Give me a second. I don't know why it wasn't sharing for you. Oh, no, it's not going to work for me because it's okay. So let me, so basically she just says there is no deadline, and this is okay, the 3 to 5 day deadline stuff is not true, and the ceasefire is indefinite. Okay. I want to see Jeffrey, do you want to respond, like give us your analysis of every. By the way, Ali, thank you so much for sharing it. That's some really good information. Ali always comes with the best information. Jeffrey, do you have any opinions on everything Ali just showed us?
You're talking about the 30 fast attack boats, part of the Mosquito fleet that potentially laid mines in that little crook of the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, exactly, that part.
So, I mean, they could lay mines, even though, okay. Sea mines, like they had 5,000 of them ish. We blew up a lot of them. We blew up over half of their Mosquito fleet's been destroyed. That's officially claimed and unclassed and stuff. So maybe they did lay mines. How many can you put on a fast attack boat? Maybe 1 or 2. It's a big area. So it's not like, it's like mine right next to each other, like Minesweeper, and there's no way past, right? It's like you're rolling the dice. That's the whole point of a mine, to make traversing this area risky. Do we have things that can sit there and clear out the mines? Yep. It's what those underwater, like, autonomous drones are for. Regardless, I think your assessment's right, though. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these different acts. The Mullah regime is using the regime remnants is using whatever cards it has left, and they are very, very few and rapidly dwindling as acts of desperation. Right? That blockade of their blockade and Operation Economic Fury is absolutely crushing them economically. And again, if they piss off Donald's not a guy you want to go, because, you know, he's like, well, the ceasefire is indefinite. Now it's 3 to 5 days. And, oh, you made him angry. Well, you know, like, maybe Pete gets the go ahead and you won't even have to wait 6 weeks, because that's going to be a spicy meatball if they let Pete loose.
It's interesting to me that they're saying the 3 to 5 day deadline is not true. Axios, you need to be more skeptical with what we see on Axios, because Axios was the source that said that there's a 3 to 5 day deadline. So unless we hear it from the White House or President Trump itself, we can't trust these other news outlets. So this is a good reminder.
Yeah, well said. Next on the list is Sadato. We have 3 people, so if we can just do 4 minutes per person, we're on track.
Sadato?
I got a quick question about the communications. Without point-to-point encrypted communications, I think it would be really hard for the Immortal Guards and the Resistance to organize. And I just had a question about what you thought the situation was with that, regarding that, and how the U.S. could possibly help with that. Also, I made a music video, and I was wondering if I could drop that link in the chat.
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you don't need permission for that. Of course, you could share in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. So you know, when it comes to communication, that's actually a good question, and I want to ask Jeffrey about this, if we could answer in just 2 minutes, hopefully, because it reminds me of Americans providing support with Starlink to Ukrainian forces, and I was wondering if that would apply here, if the Iranians at some point get armed and wanted to coordinate with each other. Is there any types of operations help that Americans could provide to them, and Israelis, of course, as well? But go on, Jeffrey.
That's exactly what the overall strategy I kind of gave you guys and sent up the chain is, to create self-sustaining nodes that could provide non and lesser kinetic support. Lesser kinetic support is things like, cyber operations, open source intelligence assessments, measurement-based intelligence assessments, communications, all of that stuff. Yeah, very much so. In fact, the Ukrainian model is the model that was used and built upon. Ukrainian defense forces are already in theater helping out Iranian resistance, man. They definitely had your back. They sent their best drone-like units to take down Shaheds and other things that I don't want to say.
Okay. By the way, so that I'm gonna watch the music video that you sent after I go on OAN. It looks very good, by the way. And thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, so let's go. I only have 10 more minutes. And guys, remember after I leave, you can still continue the conversation here without me for as long as you want. Okay. All right. So continue.
You're next, Armin.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to respond to 2 super chats that we got on YouTube. One person said, Iranian leftist communists voted this Islamic regime into power. This is why I hate democracy so much and why America is a republic. Democracy can be used to vote a society into slavery. So this is, thank you for the super chat, but this is a misunderstanding of what a republic is. A republic is a form of democracy, but a limited democracy. So a republic, and also, guys, please also understand that the constitutional monarchy is also a form of a republic. So every time where people have the way to have their choice to choose their own destiny, either by electing their representatives, or any other way. So you are dealing with some level of democracy. So republic is the understanding that absolute democracy is a tyranny of the majority, and that democracy needs to be limited either by a constitution or anything that serves like a constitution. Like, and that's why a republic works. But a republic is not against democracy. A republic is a form of democracy that has somehow been limited for certain principles that have been proven to work historically, for those to not be able to be decided based on majority votes. So, and also the beginning parts of it, the super chat says Iranian leftists and communists voted this Islamic regime into power. That is actually not true. I do blame the communists and the leftists for bringing the Islamic regime into power, but they didn't vote the regime into power. The vote was fake. The vote and the Islamic Republic, it has been documented and proven that the vote was fake. They got 98% support. I mean, every time you see numbers like that, you know it's fake. 98%. That's ridiculous. All these numbers are always made up. But the leftists and communists did worse. This did something worse than voting the Islamic Republic into power. They fought for it. They committed terrorism. So if you want to blame the communists and the Iranian leftists who brought the Islamic Republic into power, I completely agree with you on that. But it wasn't through voting. It was through terrorist activities. So if you want to blame democracy, I think a better example might be voting for Hitler and bringing him into power. But also, if you look at the way that Hitler came into power, it's not the form of democracy that we have today. So his party was still a minority party, but because the party had the highest vote, he managed to come into power. These days, Republic have ways to make sure that radical groups like that do not get control of the country just because they have the highest support, even though they have a minority level of support. So democracy works as long as you manage it properly within a framework of a republic. And then we got another super chat saying, can you please analyze the current negotiation situations? Why was it canceled last minute? Will it happen by Friday? What role is Pakistan playing? Okay, so the current situation with the negotiations with the Islamic Republic is that the Islamic Republic is unable to respond to the Americans' terms for the terms of surrender, because there's a lot of division within the Islamic Republic and there are disagreements on how to respond to the Americans. The reason why it was canceled, from what we hear from President Trump, is because the inability for the Islamic Republic to have a response. President Trump canceled it, but we suspect that it's because more of that is more than just that. It's also because the current so-called ceasefire is working for President Trump. The blockade is really harming the Islamic Republic. It seems like President Trump prefers not to use military operations. If he can avoid military operations, he prefers to continue with the blockade because it's hurting the Islamic Republic more. It avoids destroying the infrastructure of the Iranian people. It also a lot less costly, and at the same time, it avoids risking the lives of American soldiers. That's why the negotiations have stopped indefinitely, and the ceasefire continues. And also another element is that the ceasefire is causing a lot of division and infighting among the Islamic Republic, and why interrupt them while they continue to fight against each other? So we say, will it happen by Friday? Doesn't seem like it. Anything might happen, but right now, based on the information that we have so far, doesn't seem like it, but anything can change last minute. What role is Pakistan playing? Pakistan is the intermediary. The Islamic Republic has lost its previous intermediary because it shot missiles at them. So Qatar and Oman received missiles from the Islamic Republic, so they're not friends as much anymore. And now Pakistan is taking advantage of this opportunity to be the intermediary because it really does help them try to change their international image, because a lot of people look at Pakistan negatively because of poverty, Islam, and inbreeding, cause many people to have a negative view of Pakistan as a country. And this is a good opportunity for Pakistan to come and show that they could internationally have a positive effect in being, basically do what Qatar has done for a long time. Effectively, they're now trying to compete with that, and also show that they're also relevant when it comes to being a table, and basically being a place where countries could come and this is actually being a major competition between Turkey, Qatar, and Oman, as being a host for different sides of different conflicts. Qatar has shown how lucrative it is, how beneficial it is for you to be seen as a intermediate country between different countries that are having conflict with each other. It gave them a lot of political leverage. So more countries are now trying to copy Qatar's model by becoming more politically relevant internationally by providing that role. So those are the stuff that I wanted to respond to. Okay, who's next on the list?
Last on the list is Cat Lady.
Cat Lady?
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My question is, and I'm sorry if it was mentioned before because I got kicked out many times. The app is not my friend today. What are the odds in your mind that in the next, week, 2 weeks, they will start shooting again rockets, or use Hezbollah to shoot rockets more than they are doing now? Are they too afraid of the backfire, the strikes, or is it a possibility? What do you think?
Rockets at Israel, you mean?
Israel and other countries, yeah.
Okay, they're actively trying to get back. So here's the thing. There are parts of IRGC that are trying to figure out ways to stop doing that. And there are parts of IRGC who is right now planning as we speak to start attacking other countries again, right? And it's really hard to stop them. So we know Ghani, for example, is in Iraq right now. Why is he in Iraq? The suspicion is that Ghani, the head of the Quds army of the IRGC, the reason why he's probably in Iraq is to try to get the armed forces in Iraq to obviously do something, potentially like attack Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, right? Hezbollah has already been shooting missiles at Israel. The thing is that it's harder for them to do so because southern Lebanon has been taken over by Israel. So even when they shoot missiles at Israel, it's coming from a a longer distance. So it's less effective. But even from a further distance, they are still trying to find ways to hurt Israel, right? And the Islamic Republic is trying to get the Houthis dragged into Bab el-Mandeb. There seems to be a suspicion that the Houthis don't want to get involved. I think they might be disappointed with the level of support they're getting for the Islamic Republic. But again, the Islamic Republic might actually find ways to give them something that satisfies them. So the question is that if you're asking about the motivation is yes, there are many parts of the IRGC who are trying to get going back to shooting missiles at everybody. They don't like the ceasefire situation at all, right? The question is, would they be able to? Do they have enough missiles? Are their proxies going to listen to them or not? The fact that they had to send Ghani to Iraq suggests to me that just contacting them and telling them to do this is not good enough. Why does he have to go to Iraq? It seems like some convincing needs to be done. So it is possible that if the Islamic Republic's proxies are not as loyal to the Islamic Republic as they used to be. This is why the Islamic Republic was very insistent on including Hezbollah on the terms of the ceasefire, because they are very terrified about Hezbollah not being loyal to the Islamic Republic. So they want to show to Hezbollah that they're still supporting them, that they're still backing them. And if Hezbollah feels abandoned by the Islamic Republic, that is a nightmare situation for the Islamic Republic. So to me, it seemed like maybe the Islamic Republic is losing some control over its proxies, but they are trying. Does that answer your question?
So you're saying they can't? That's what you
I'm
think?
saying they want to, but whether they can, they want to, but whether they can or
Yeah,
not,
yeah. Okay, no, I don't go over it again. I listened. Okay, yeah, but okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right, guys, I need to go because I need to get ready for this interview, and I'm gonna stop the recording now. And oh yeah, so guys, you guys could continue the conversation without me, and this was great. And I'm gonna also end the live stream. So I'm just gonna say, I'm Israel Chai, long live America, Javid Shah, Payande Iran. See you guys same time tomorrow. All right, guys, bye.
So Jeff.
All right, guys, I'm gonna say bye to you guys as well, and I'm gonna go get ready for OAN. And again, to you guys as well, I'm Israel Chai, long live America, Javid Shah, Payande Iran. See you guys same time tomorrow. All right, guys, I need to go get ready for an interview with OAN. Okay, bye. Love you guys.